It's now 5:30 p.m. This is March 25th, 2014, and this is the regular meeting of the Garland Independent School District Board of Trustees. A quorum is present, and notice of this meeting was posted as required by law. Please join me for the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. We'll go to item 3, which is our closed executive session under 551-001, including 551-071, private consultation with the board's attorney, 551-074, board approval of personnel matters, and 551-074, considerations of non-renewal and renewal of contracts. For those in the audience, I cannot give you an idea on how long we're going to be in closed executive session. It possibly could be over an hour. We have no idea once we start. It's very, very important matters we're going to be discussing. The reason we're doing this evening, just so I can explain it to you, normally we start at 6 o'clock, we're starting at 5:30. This evening, the first of the public forums that exist for candidates running for school board and Garland City Council is taking place. It's the NAACP forum that's taking place in downtown Garland. And 2 of our incumbents are on the ballot, and they will have to leave us at certain time. Probably, we're not really sure what time they'll leave us, but they are officially scheduled to be in the discussion this evening about 8:30, I believe. So we wanted to move this up, take closed executive session first, discuss those matters, and then we'll come out and get on to the regular session. And we're returning from closed executive session. I hereby certify that the only items discussed were those legally allowed under law. We do appreciate your patience. This was a very important closed executive session. We will move directly into our public forum, which is item number 6. Again, each person will have 3 minutes to speak. Dr. Barajas will be our timekeeper. The 3 minutes will start after you give us your name, your address, if you have any children in the district. Please remember that in your comments, do not refer to any specific individuals by name. Okay. We'll start with, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, Mr. Jacobo Luna Cruz.
Good evening. My name is Jacobo Luna. I teach Spanish, and I'm the chair of the Department of the World Languages at my high school. And I live in 7601 Churchill Way, apartment 1137, Dallas, Texas, 75251. Dear members of the school board and Dr. Morrison, today I'm here to tell you a story that happened to me in December. Because of the situation that I'm going through, and as well as my students, my colleagues, one day I just couldn't handle it anymore. So I had a breakdown during my first period class. I stopped teaching. I took a seat. And subconsciously, I spoke. I give up. I can't take this anymore. To my surprise, my students reacted to my situation. They give me this look, and they said, "Hey, Mr. Luna, you can't quit. What kind of lesson are you giving us? Like, are you kidding me? Like, what's wrong? It can't be that hard. Whatever you're going through, it's going to be okay." My students told me, "Come on, Senor Luna. You have to fight. You taught us never to give up. Then it was like this light of enlightenment all of a sudden. And I told my friends and colleagues, I feel like this situation is like we're walking through a very horrific storm. And there are thunders destroying everything that we have built. And we're scared and we're crying. And I feel like we're going to die on the process of crossing the storm. But all of a sudden we got those voices, like the students who actually have written a lot of letters advocating for my situation, and my friends and my colleagues.
And I got parents as well who are expressing their discomfort and how offensed see if they have felt in this situation. My colleagues at school have showed the support. Administrators, I mean, even students I have never taught. So with that in mind, GISD hired because they want the best for the students. This is a great community. We are exceptional educators, and you want the best for our children. I want the best for my children. You want the best for us. We are the best. That's what we are always striving in every single day. And, you know, it's not only teaching, it's the love that goes through beyond the classroom. You wanted exceptional teachers, educational leaders. You wanted amazing things happening in the classroom. That's our part. And we're just asking that you do your part so that you can repair the damage and so that we can get our green cards. And thank you all so much. I'm going to leave the letters to y'all. I made copies.
Please give them to Ms. Minks. Thank you. Thank you very much. Alfonso Cesares.
Good evening. My name is Alfonso Casares, and I live in 911 Yellow Jacket Lane, Rockwell, Texas. Board members, to deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. Nelson Mandela. I have been in the U.S. for a decade, 7 of those teaching in Garland ISD. I teach Spanish 3 pre-AP, Spanish language and culture, and Spanish literature and culture. I'm also the Lakeview Centennial High School Foreign Language Department head and the National Spanish Honor Society sponsor. I have a wife and a 7-year-old son born in North Carolina. When I was in 7th grade, I decided that I would be a teacher. In 1997, I obtained my BA in foreign languages education in Columbia, and I got my master's degree in TESOL in North Carolina in 2007. And the same year, I noticed an email from GISD Human Resources. I applied and started working with a dream, the beginning of a never-ending and irregular permanent residence process. I was sent to an attorney who, with the approval of the district, will leave me in this critical situation. After living in my own house with my family, I entered into an unstable situation of having to sell it, move, and worry my 7-year-old son about his home and school. This has been a psychological test for my wife and son. This is a hardship since we have been living and working in the States for 10 years. And now going back to our country would cause more harm than good. We have believed in a land that clearly stands for justice for all. We have been working honestly, doing what is right to be legal in the United States, respecting the laws and regulations. I believe and trusted in those who represented me. It has been 7 years invested in just one simple step towards a permanent residence. Today, it's easy to say your visa expires and you have to leave. That is punishment. The law cannot punish the victim and exonerate the guilty ones. My HB documents are still on a table, ready for a signature. My human rights have been denied, as have been those of my family. I want to teach without pressure from the constant threat of the visa expiration. Board members, GISD has the responsibility of educating our kids. This is a great opportunity to give them an example of justice. We are not only teachers, we are also examples of justice. If we play right in the investigation, I'm sure that the federal government will grant justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Torres?
Mr. Glick, Dr. Morrison, members of the board, and staff members. The name is Tony Torres. I reside at 1805 Trowbridge. I have 2 grandkids in the GISD. I am here not to point any fingers. I'm here out of frustration. This frustration comes out of how do we make these people whole? And when I say we, I mean we as a community, because it is a community responsibility. We elected you as trustees. You selected the superintendent. Now, what can we do to make these people whole? We cannot play the role of Pontius Pilate here and wash our hands and say, it's too bad, we can't do anything for you. We have a moral and legal responsibility to these people. We asked them to come here. We need to support them in any way we can. Before you make any final decisions, I hope you can say we have exhausted all possible avenues. I know we cannot discuss a lot of the issues. I really don't care who's at fault here. It's a matter of how do we resolve this? How do we make these people whole? These are teachers in the GISD and their families. They are not disposable commodities. I leave you with this request. Do the right thing. The GISD is better than this. Thank you.
Thank you. Norma Morales.
My name is Norma Mireles. I'm a legal resident of Rowlett, Texas. I live at 9430 Shipman Street. I was born and raised in the United States, and I am married and have 2 children, Jonathan, age 18, a senior at Rockwall High School, and Delilah, age 13, a 7th grader at Williams Middle School. I've been a medical assistant for Metroplex Women's Care in Rockwall, Texas for 15 years, a Eucharistic minister coordinator for the past year, and a catechist for over 10 years. These past 3 years, I've had the honor of getting to know Bernardo Montes, his wife Margarita, and his daughter Maria. I met them at church, Our Lady of the Lake in Rockwall, Texas, where they have been active members now for 6 years. Mr. Bernardo sings in the church choir along with his 9-year-old Maria, whom, by the way, has the most amazing angelic voice for a little girl. Bernardo's wife, Margarita, has been actively serving as a Eucharistic minister for 3 years now. Their daughter is in my catechism class and is the most brilliant little girl I know, always eager to answer every question that is asked and gets every answer correctly in both languages, English and Spanish. I was curious how this little girl could know it all, so I asked her mother. She states that they attend Bible studies as a family or they hold them at their own home. She also stated that this young lady has also read 2 versions of children's Bibles written by different authors, and she read them from front to back. This child is truly a child with high standards and a high achiever. That kind of drive and determination in a 9-year-old child is rare. Who knows, maybe she could even be the next president of the United States. We definitely need more children like her. These parents have obviously instilled great morals into their family, and I have been beyond blessed to have them be a part of our church family and friends. I strongly believe that the actions of this family has overexceeded the expectations of living in the United States and have become the perfect model of a United States citizen. And I leave you with their motto of, educate and not deportate, and also let them teach.
Thank you. Sidhan Bennett.
Hello, my name is Siobhan Bennett. I live at 3808 Encanto Court in Plano, Texas. I teach at Hillside Academy. The superintendent was fortunate to be hired to lead a high-functioning district with strong employee loyalty and morale. But in one short year, morale has plummeted. It feels that this administration does not value its workforce. Our coworkers are sent away after years of service through no fault of their own. The ISD created this debacle, whether or not it was under your watch, and you should rectify it, or is loyalty no longer valued here? The trust and autonomy once awarded the schools has been reduced. We once made decisions for our campuses, each unique because of choice of school. This year, campuses have been rendered impotent. The superintendent has sent strangers to watch the details of our work without introduction of self or purpose, resulting in an environment of fear and suspicion. Throughout the fall semester, principals and teachers alike were observed incessantly. Why have we been treated in such a panoptic manner? Frankly, sir, your initiatives will not work if the people required to implement them are treated with distrust. The superintendent's biography states that he contributes to the Public Education Visioning Institute. Article 5, Organizational Transformation Sites. The district is responsible for creating the conditions for attracting teachers who can learn to use appropriate processes in different ways in collaborative settings. But you have not created those conditions, and you have been reticent to empower us to take risks with innovation in our instruction. For teachers to take risks with innovation, there must be an environment of trust, rather than confinement to a checklist of approved behaviors. Ironically, those best practices were incubated in classrooms where risk-taking teachers experimented with processes they found engaging to students, resulting in success. And this was before any of them were labeled best practice. During the superintendent's tenure in Mansfield, GISD tied or outranked that system, and our students come from homes whose median income is $40,000 less than there. And you know that matters. And Garland achieved our success without a multitude of six-figure executives. How? Because of the people in the school buildings and not in this building. If stakeholder input is dismissed, you will all continue to encounter backlash. The 21st century interpersonal skills of collaboration and communication have lacked this year. You must be open to crucial conversations without ego. You must collaborate with all campus members. We are the foot soldiers defending the interests of the GISD. It was said on the news that the superintendent has changed the culture of Garland ISD for the better. I dare say this crowd disagrees with you, and I am perplexed as to your definition of better.
Thank you. Charlotte Wilson.
Hello. My name is Charlotte Wilson. I live at 1426 Bardfield in Garland. I've been a member of Garland ISD since 1960. I've always been proud that my school district was managed with common sense and integrity. This year, I've been greatly saddened to learn that my district was withdrawing the appeal process for some of our bilingual teachers. This is after they were promised a green card, their applications were mishandled by the district, and they were cheated out of a lot of money. These are fine, honorable, outstanding teachers. They are well loved by their students. We are not putting the students first by telling these teachers that they are no longer wanted because to correct the problem with immigration is just too much trouble. We as educators should always try to set a good example for our students. We teach our students that if we make a mistake, we need to fix the mistake. The school personnel that caused this problem and cheated these teachers are no longer working for the district, but they were working for the district. Therefore, it is the district's responsibility to do whatever is necessary to correct this problem quickly. The final outcome of this situation will be your legacy. This is what you will be remembered for. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernardo Mendez.
Good evening. My name is Bernardo Montes Rodriguez. I live in 517 Indian Paintbrush Drive, Rockwell, Texas. I work at Hillside Academy for Excellence. I teach an ELA gifted curriculum to both bilingual and regular third grade classes. I have 7 years working in Garland. Dear board members, I came from Colombia in 2004 with our international faculty program. Our daughter was born in New Jersey. She is now 9 years old. When I was offered a job in Garland, I was told by the Human Resources Director to only contact the lawyers the district was working with. Otherwise, the district won't guarantee a good process. So I did everything the district asked me to do, like paying for the H-1B working visa for me and the H-4 for my wife. Now, some people point at the lawyers like if it was their fault only, but I have to tell you this, and I can look at people's eyes when I say something because I say the truth. The lawyer won't do anything without the approval from the Director of Human Resources. After 2 years of waiting, my first case was denied because the district failed to provide adequate documentation. So I was told they will start a new labor certification case and that I have to renew my H-1B visa and my wife's H-4. So I paid again for those visas. Then we applied again for my labor certification, and after 2 years waiting, we received the news that it was denied again. Why was it denied now? Apparently because of some mistakes the district and lawyers did when preparing the documentation to support my case. So it has been 7 years of intrigue, uncertainty, waiting, and just trusting the district. To receive the news that the district canceled the service of the previous lawyers, and also that the Human Resources Director suddenly retired, and that the district is thankful for my 7 years of service, and that, according to the lawyer now, she said, I may just need to departure. When my second case was denied, I only have one last option, to appeal to a higher board, the BALCA. The district first agreed to continue with the appeal, and under this appealing, the district could extend my visa 1 year at a time. So the district said, okay, we'll continue with the appeal process. But for my surprise, after 15 days, they finally decided not to do it. And they withdraw my appeal, what takes away any possibility to extend my visa. And I think to myself, why is the district playing games with me and my family? I teach this to my students. If you make mistakes, you fix them. If teachers make mistakes, we are supposed to fix them. So if the district directors make mistakes, I suppose they should fix them. I hope the district takes responsibility and does whatever it has to do to let us do what we are for, teaching our kids and not to step on the rights of others. I still believe the district can do the right thing and fix the mistake. I would like to not trust the district anymore, but in the event that the district forced me not to believe in them anymore, I will still believe in him, in this who came 2,000 years ago to teach us how to administer law with new ingredients, the ingredients of love and compassion. I will still believe in him. Amen.
Thank you. Francisco Marcano.
Good evening. My name is Francisco Marcano, and I reside in 6218 North Shiloh Road, Garland, Texas, 75044. I currently work at Jackson Technology Center. I'm an ESL teacher, department chair, lead teacher, and recently named ESL Department Teacher of the Year. I have been a teacher in Garland ISD for 7 years, and I have a total of 17 years of teaching experience. Throughout this time, I have demonstrated proficient and exemplary work in all my positions, assignments, and challenges. My curriculum vitae stands out for excellence in international education, as it can be evidenced through different recognitions that range from Virginia International Visiting Faculty Outstanding Cultural Ambassador to the most recent Jackson ESL Department Teacher of the Year. It is with great concern that I would like to address the following reflection to all of you respected board members. Notwithstanding, it was recently brought to my attention by my principal and the district secondary ESL supervisor that some of my tasks were past due. I wish I had, at some point, received a note that would have helped me cope with this present and very difficult situation. Instead, I have been given a very stoic and phlegmatic response. Analogically speaking, the district is not only past due in relation to our legal immigration cases, but also well overdue. This reality has inexorably affected all of us in all aspects of our lives. This fact has, in a like manner, remained overlooked by the people in critical positions in this school district. I urge you all to ponder and take action on the premise that education can never be radically stripped of, seceded or severed from its main humanistic core. This is an existential dichotomy where I firmly believe that human education must supersede mass education. Hence, the need to take care of the adults that will make sure that the kids are first. This corresponds with the antique yet predominant pyramid of Maslow, which posits that basic human needs must be covered to have fully functional individuals. Thus, I encourage you to bring a much more humanistic approach to the teaching learning process and the way you make decisions that involve all of us, teachers, parents, and students, especially those human beings who have walked hundreds of extra miles for our school communities. Please take with you this premise and delve into it. It will be the beginning of a more genuine educational structure. I, one of the people who have brought into the classroom an enriched, much broader perspective of life with a global sense, would like to finish by saying that there is no such thing as a lesser person, as the Embry Human Rights Organization states as our main motto. Thanks.
Thank you. Elizabeth Nino de Rivera.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Nino de Rivera. I live at 2000 East Arapahoe Road, Richardson, Texas. Dear members of the board, Dr. Morrison, my name is Elizabeth Nino de Rivera. I am a bilingual kindergarten teacher at Edrich Elementary. In 2006, I was hired by Garland ISD at a job fair in Mexico. I was brought to this country legally with an H-1B visa by the district and with the promise of being sponsored and guided legally to acquire my permanent residence, depending on job performance and abiding by all requirements from the district and the assigned lawyers. 6 years ago, after having all the requirements and the approval of the district, I started the process of my permanent residence. However, due to unkept promises and numerous errors made by others and that are beyond my control, my process has been denied not only once, but twice. And therefore, I can no longer continue with my permanent process. This marks a deadline allowing me to stay in the country only 2 more months. Throughout these 6 years of struggle, years after years, paying all the required fees and the uncertainty of obtaining my permanent residence, my life has been at a standstill, with promises made and now being unkept, leaving me hopeless and perhaps deported. How does this happen to someone who has diligently strived to abide by all the rules, guidelines, laws of this nation, and all other requirements for permanent residence? Throughout the 8 years that I have been working with the district, I have demonstrated my impeccable character, abided by all requirements, and upheld all the laws of this nation. Also, I have contributed to the education of the children in this community and nation, and have become an asset to the District of Garland. Since I have complied with all the guidelines, standards, and requirements for a permanent residence, all I am requesting is for the district to act quickly and ensure my process of permanent residence to be complete, just as it was promised to me. I have done my job. I have done my part. Now I expect you to do yours. And we are not alone in this. We have people that is here supporting us. If you could please stand up and show your support to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kara King.
Hello, I'm Kara King. I live at 3610 South Glenbrook Drive in Garland, and I teach at Hillside Academy. I do have 4 children who have gone through through Hillside, Austin, 2 who graduated from Garland, and 2 who are currently at Saxe High School. I am proud to be a teacher in Garland ISD, and I'm proud that my children are students of Garland ISD. Tonight I would like to speak to the character and the performance of my colleague who teaches with me at Hillside Academy. He's a professional teacher dedicated to the success of every student. He integrates technology to make lessons engaging. He puts students first in all that he does. He's a pleasure to work with and an inspirational teacher. He goes the extra mile even in afternoon duty, as he's almost always voluntarily the last one waiting with the students who are the last to be picked up. He does everything he does with excellence and with a great attitude. My colleague is one of the teachers affected by the work visa program. It's my understanding that neither he nor the other teachers have done anything wrong. They've done everything that was asked of them. My plea is that if there's anything that can be done to remedy this situation, and surely there is, that our district would do it. We teach our students to take responsibility, to take initiative, and to do the right thing even when it's complicated, even when it's difficult. As a district, let's please do the right thing. Let's do whatever it takes to help these teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Marco Malagon.
Good evening. My name is Marco Malagon. I reside in 2400 Drive, Cedar Hill, Texas. I am one of the co-founders of the North Texas Dream Team. I'm here in support, fully support for the teachers. I've always been, emotionally and spiritually motivated by my teachers, especially the bilingual teachers. I got here when I was 17. One of my teachers was from Nicaragua, and he was the only one that I trusted when I went to school. one side didn't know how to speak English or, neither of, the school system. He guided me through the process and how to apply, for college and all that stuff. And he also took me to a trip at UNT, and that university I fell in love with. Today I'm here to ask you to support teachers, because what I do know personally has affected me in so much ways is that I felt comfortable with my teachers that were, pushing me that extra mile. I do know here that we have excellent teachers with the highest, educational credentials here, and we are here supporting them. Our team is actually here tonight, to represent our undocumented community, the ones that, have been taught by these teachers, the ones that, find that extra courage and extra motivation to keep on going in school and graduate. I do believe that these teachers have made a tremendous impact in the students' lives, because I was one of them that got motivated by one of those teachers from the outside of the United States. So I'm here, and I'm going to urge you to really take this into a really really good. Do whatever you can to help them. This is the lives of students that are going to be impacted. These are the lives of people that will have to move out of this country, will have to start all over again. And this is the life of their, U.S. citizen children that are going to be denied of the best education and the best, country in the world. So I'm here urging you as an undocumented student to really take this in consideration and to really help our community, because our community needs these teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew Goldsmith.
Chairman, superintendent, staff, employees. My name is Andrew Goldsmith. I live at 3000 Wingren Road in Irving. I have nieces and nephews who go to school in Garland. I worked 22 years for the Dallas Independent School District as a community liaison. And I think this board is very fortunate to have teachers of this caliber. And I just find it hard to believe, being in an inner city school building for 22 years, that someone from the school district would play the bait and switch game, offer somebody something and then take it away. This board has the means to do the right thing. You have the influence to do the right thing. And I just pray that you go home this evening or after this meeting, you talk, you converse, and you realize, you know what? Your predecessors made mistakes. And being a new board, being a new superintendent, you're going to get off on the right foot. You're going to give these teachers here who have probably over 80 years of experience altogether, and have parents and colleagues come in to speak on their behalf, to give them what they need. Open your checkbook, write the check, get the correct attorney, and get them their permanent residency so they can continue, for nothing else, to keep teaching the students in Garland ISD. And for someone who retired from Texas Education Agency, some of these teachers already have 10 years already in the district. I mean, they're well on their way towards retirement. They have children who were born here. They don't know their home country. And lastly, I'm sure you'll do the right thing, because you have a responsibility to the students of Garland ISD to keep quality teachers. And these are quality teachers. And lastly, I'd like to say you also have a responsibility for all the students in Garland ISD. And I would encourage you to call your congressman and ask them to pass immigration reform. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Greg Fowler.
How y'all doing tonight? My name's Greg Fowler. I'm with Taco Casa. I'm located at 6118 Broadway Boulevard in Garland. And board members, Dr. Morrison, appreciate the time to speak to y'all. Last time I spoke, I'd highlighted a few points of frustration that I brought before y'all. One of those points of frustration was that I felt that the Garland Independent School District was becoming an unfriendly business district. And I want to report to the board and to Dr. Morrison that the GISD has reached out to me and we've resolved those issues. I want to say thank you for that. I never anticipated that change would result in losing that business contact, and I look forward to continuing my support with the GISD, and especially for the kids and the educators that put their careers on the line for all our kids. Dr. Morrison, I want to thank you for a follow-up call. I'm sorry I didn't return your call, but I addressed this issue in a public forum, and I felt it proper that I report it back in the same forum. Also, I'd like to let the board know that some of the other issues that I reported on or had concerns about were attitude of educators. We hear a lot of it. You're hearing it all here tonight. I don't need to keep beating a dead horse on that. But my deal is I mean, I'd like to see a change, because I don't think that educators can be the best that they can be working under a situation of duress. We naturally will hold back and not perform our best if we're working in a fear of retaliation or retribution or anything like that. And I think we need to give our educators every avenue to be the best educator they can be. We don't hire horses or buy horses, race horses, and then put carts behind them. We want to give that racehorse as much rein as we can so that it can be the best that it can be. And I think that's what we need to be doing with our educators. I'd like to hear or see that attitude gets improved upon. The other thing is I believe you guys as board members, and even you, Dr. Morrison, go out and spend some time with these teachers. Go out and spend some time in the classroom. Talk to these people, because these are the foot soldiers that represent y'all, and to make y'all the best that y'all can be, they've got to be in a position to be the best that they can be. And I think that y'all would serve yourself well by getting off the leather chairs, getting out from behind the desk, and get out there and see what's going on. I guess my time's up, but you know, I like to say, guys, I challenge you to go out there and see what's going on so we can make a difference. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Morrison?
I just want everybody to know, one of the things that we have done, everybody on Team GISD, that's principals, directors, and coordinators, went and spent a day in the life of a student in GISD so everybody could see what it was like from a student's perspective. And we're actually having that report back on Thursday. And then also everybody on Executive Council spends at least one day at every campus with the teachers at breakfast or lunch. So I just wanted a point of clarification. We are reaching out to the teachers at the campus level, and we also are reaching out at the student level, that means every principal, director, and coordinator spends a day with a student. My day was yesterday, and I spent it at Memorial Pathways Academy and had a wonderful time with those students. Thank you.
Brandy Daniluk.
My name is Brandy Daniluk. I live at 5325 Pensacola Drive. I have a first grader and a third grader at Hillside Academy. I'm here today in support of Bernardo Montez, my son's favorite third grade teacher. Superintendent, I'd like to appeal to you to do what is in your power, what's in all of y'all's power, to fix the wrongs done to all of the teachers involved in this situation. Parents, I appeal to you to stand up, to speak up, to let the district know that losing dedicated teachers is not an option in this district for our kids and for our children's future. GISD was a pioneer in starting this program in 2006. It is time for this administration to step up and finish what was started, what was promised, and to let them teach. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Carl Luna.
Mr. Chairman, board members, my name is Carl Luna. I'm a lifelong resident of Garland, Texas. I graduated from Garland High School. I have my three children graduated from Garland, and also I have 4 grandchildren in the system now, and one that's just gone to A&M. And I'm not here to criticize anybody, but and I'll take credit for part of the problem. That we have some good people here, good people and good teachers. We should all get behind them, do everything we can do to make sure they get to stay here. Do I think we've done everything? No, I don't think we've done everything. And Scott told me to shut up. That I shouldn't talk about it, but I don't think y'all have done everything. Now, you've written a letter to your congressman, but you have people like me and other people that do know congressmen and do know senators. You can get a committee, you can appoint a committee of 10 to 15 people that will go see those congressmen. I, for one, will pay my way to Washington, D.C. to see them on their behalf. And I don't know any of them. The only one I know is this one right here. I don't really know him, but Alex is, the first time up here is Alex. He had Alex, taught him Spanish. And he told me he said, Papa, excuse me, he says, see if you can help me. So I said, Alex, I'll do my best. And if it takes that to do it, and I think you can do it that way. You're not going to be able to hire anybody to get to do it, but you're going to get to the people that can make the decisions. And that's your elected officials, your higher elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamara Bates.
My name is Tamara Bates, and I live at 102 Waterview Parkway in Rowlett. I currently teach 3rd grade at Hillside Academy, and I have a kindergartner at Hillside. Board members, Dr. Morrison, I teach 3rd grade at Hillside Academy. I'm proud to say that my husband and I are both graduates of Rowlett High School. I have been teaching in GISD for 9 years as a teacher and a substitute. Our son is a student in the district, and our daughter will start her journey here next year. I am proud to put kids first in my classroom because I know there are teachers who do the same for my very own children. I am also very proud to say that I am a teammate of Bernardo Montez, one of the teachers affected by the expiring work visas. My heart goes out to all the teachers and families affected by the situation, as I once was a child whose parents came to this country in order to give me a better life and future. I am very familiar with the immigration laws and processes, and I know they are complicated. I chose to be a teacher, parent, and a taxpayer of this district for a reason. I believe in Garland. I believe in putting kids first. I also believe that this difficult and complicated situation can have a different outcome if we as a community, with you as the board, choose to do what is right. I believe that from a situation that has brought negative publicity to our district over the past several months, we have an opportunity to create a much greater lesson, a lesson in which we teach our students in our community that we believe in humanity. We believe in good people. We will step up and do the right thing when certain individuals in the past did not do so. We put kids first because we take care of those teachers who serve our kids well. We believe in fighting for what is right because that is what we want our students to do as well. We can choose the easy way and deny these teachers an opportunity to continue serving our kids, which they have done well over the years. Or we can make the hard right choice where we fight for them and prove to them in our community they are more than just disposable items that have been used and are being discarded because the situation is too difficult or too complicated. Bernardo Montes is in a difficult situation, not because he did anything wrong. I think we can all agree on that. Bernardo is a hard worker, a wonderful husband and a father, a great teacher. He's professional, he's kind, he's passionate about teaching. Our students love him, our parents respect him, our Hillside family supports him. He has provided and served our district with passion, professionalism, and integrity over the years. If we want to build a district where kids come first, this is the teacher you want teaching our kids. This is where we start. I know promises cannot be made. I know the laws are complicated. I know the situation and past decisions and events cannot be reversed. However, choosing to fight for good people who have done nothing wrong but have been wronged is not a difficult decision if you want to lead our population of 58,000 students by example. Bernardo is about to lose his job and home through no fault of his own. This district doesn't just have a chance to do the right thing. It is our responsibility to do so. We can fight for these teachers, we can support them. We have left them with no choices, no options, and no time. I teach every student in my classroom. It is never too difficult and never too complicated to do the right thing. How do we put kids first if we don't value, take care, and respect those who are and have been on the front lines of our mission? Are we going to build the legacy of this district by choosing the difficult right over the easy wrong? How do we choose kids first if we have to say no to that question? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I would just like to say something personal, I believe on behalf of my board members, fellow board members. I am a first-generation American. My mom came through Ellis Island. I hear what you're saying. I'm affected by what you're saying. It breaks my heart to hear you say this. And we are going to do everything in our power for you. Shelley Scott.
Hello, my name is Shelley Scott. I live at 2633 Ashley in Garland. I was born at the Spiegel Hospital in Garland. I started elementary school in 1969 at Daughtery. I graduated from Garland High School in 1981. I have taught in Garland. I love Garland, and I believe in the Garland Independent School District. Mr. Axe, thank you for coming into our room last week and reading Dr. Seuss to my kiddos. I know you were there, and I appreciate that, and they did too. I want to tell you that I have known Mr. Bernardo Montes now for 3 years. I have been impressed by his teaching abilities, his heart for his students, and his impeccable integrity. I have seen his family's anguish in the possibility of losing their home, their job, and his whole life in America, even though he has followed through with everything the district has asked him to do. But because of the mistakes of his employer, he and his entire family, their lives now, are due to change completely and likely forever. Mr. Montes and his family have made their home in America banking on the promises that you have made to him. Please support your teachers and make good these promises. Your employee, my colleague, our friend, is not a disposable teacher, and nor is he a disposable human. Please support your teachers.
Let me just point out that this evening is the first of the public forums for the candidates running for both GISD positions and also Garland City positions. It's the NAACP forum. And so Dr. Castaneda and Mr. Luna will have to leave. We thank them, and we started the meeting early this evening to try to accommodate them. So they'll be leaving now. We'll take a moment as they leave, and then we'll continue on with the citizens' input. Okay, Lennon Aguilar.
Good evening. I don't have a speech made up. I don't think I can do any better than all these
Please
people.
give us your name and address, sir.
Oh,
Yes.
my name is Lennon Aguilar, and I live at 2930 Honeysuckle Drive in Garland.
Thank you.
I have my wife, Lourdes, and my daughter, Camila. Camila was a student of Mr. Montes back in third grade, about 2 years ago. When I read about what was going on with Mr. Montes and the rest of these fine teachers on the newspaper, I was surprised. I was surprised to read that something like that could happen here in Garland. To be honest with you, I live in Garland by accident. Everything I hear about Garland is negative, but I can tell you what I've seen at Hillside and with Mr. Montes and what he did for my daughter has changed my mind about living in Garland. I've been telling my wife I want to move to Plano, I want to move to Allen, I want to move somewhere else. I don't want to live in Garland. But seeing the way Mr. Montes has worked with my daughter has impacted me. I appreciate what you said earlier, that the board is going to do everything it can to help these teachers. And that says a lot. And I think if you keep them informed on what you're doing to help them out, will make a difference. I think if you just stand back and you do things in the background without them knowing, they're going to feel like you're not doing anything for them. So I think if you stay communicated with them and with the community that's here to support them, it will make a big difference for all of us. If there's anything I can do, I'm a registered voter. You tell me what to do, I'll do it. I have no problem helping you out. I don't know how the immigration process works for them. I couldn't tell you the ins and outs. I'm sure you already figured that out. I'm sure you know what you need to do. I just expect you to do the right thing. And don't do it because it will make you look good. Do it for that little girl there. Do it for all the little girls and all the little boys that go to Garland ISD. And I still have my doubts about living in Garland, I'll be honest with you. No, it's no joke, I have my doubts. But I hope that you step up to the plate, you do the right thing, and you impress me, and you make me want to stay in Garland and continue to pay taxes for Garland District, for the Garland ISD, and do the right, just ask you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernardo Montez.
I already
Okay.
participated, but I forgot to. I forgot to say, Mr. Axe, you were also reading to my class, and I have one of my students here, Brianna or Jamila, actually both of you. They did.
Sir, please.
They did thank you points. We are working on a poetry unit, so they wrote thank you poems for you for reading to them. Thank you very much.
Dennis Schiffen, or Schiffer.
My name is Dennis Schaefer. I live at 3557 Lee Court in Saxe, Texas. I am the parent of 2 kids who graduated from a Garland ISD school. I am also an employee of the Garland ISD school district. I do want to confirm something that Dr. Morrison said, and that is in the Team GISD meetings, he has given us some instructions about how we need to be more in contact with our students and know more about them and what we do for them. I know one thing that he asked us to do was to have a picture, so whenever we had a meeting, we would know that we were meeting about the students in our school district, and we were doing things because of the students in our school district. I also was one of the ones that went to a school and followed a student for a day. So I'll just confirm that as well. I wanted to make a quote, say a quote, and I can't bring it up on my laptop at this particular point. But the quote goes this. It says, you can please some of the people all the time. You can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. And unfortunately, I think we're hearing about most of the time that you can't please people, but there are times that you can. And I just want to reiterate that. I know one thing that we all should have in common is we are a business in public education, and one of the things that we should have in common is that we want to make sure that all students have the opportunity to have a good education and be able to leave Garland ISD and have productive lives. And I believe that's all that I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Ramiro Luna.
Good evening, board members. My name is Ramiro Luna. My address is 1710 South Denley, Dallas, Texas. I'm speaking before you as an organizer, as an activist, as a co-founder of the North Texas Dream Team, and as a worker of the Texas Organizing Project. I'm involved with various organizations, and I'm proud to say that I'm one of the reasons why you see this room filled. We work tirelessly to make sure that these teachers had a voice. See, the North Texas Dream Team, we fight day in and day out to stop families from deportation because we have seen it. And once you see it, it will change you forever. And you will never want to see that again. I would like to take some time to see these faces of the families, not just the teachers, but the strain that it will cause. I know the strain and I know the pain, and I know how that pain cuts deep. Because when I was 13 years old, my father was deported, and I still understand that it's something that is hard to get over. We cannot allow that pain to go through, not only to the family, if it does happen, but also to the students or these teachers, once they realize that their teacher was deported, whenever their family is under the same situation. I know that there was a mistake. I know there must have been some discrepancies. That is a story that is still not finished. You have the power to finish the story. As we expect excellence from our teachers, we also expect excellence from our trustees. And that word trust in our trustees. So we trust you to do the right thing. We trust you to work diligently. Because what is at stake is far greater than you losing a teacher. It's the family member and the family nucleus that you'll be dividing or distorting, and everybody else that is impacted by that ripple that causes. I'm here to say that as the North Texas Dream Team, as an activist, I am diligently and I will continue to work for these teachers because they deserve to be here. Just like our undocumented students deserve to be here. Our work is just beginning. We're going to continue to work alongside with you because we feel that you're hearing us. We feel that you'll be fair and that you'll be just. We hope that this to be true, and will continue until this becomes true and until these teachers are safely stay here in the United States.
Thank you. Saurav, it's hard to read the first name, Ronco from the Dream Team.
Good evening, board members and community members here in support. My name is Soraya Ronco. I live at 228 Collins Drive in Irving, Texas, 75060. I have a little girl, and if she were to be in this district, I'd be really, very, very proud of her to one day have these teachers as her own teacher. These are beautiful souls that we've all encountered, and it was by fate that we all met them. I am a member of the Education Not Deportation Committee on behalf of the NTDT, which is North Texas Dream Team. I'm here with my brothers and sisters in support of the GISD teachers that are at risk of being deported. Dr. Morrison, maybe you might recognize my name. I sent you an email, which I have here, a copy of it, which I never received a response on your behalf. It was a letter asking you for help in helping these teachers. I hope that we still can join in being that and doing that for them. I told you that I would assist the school board meeting, and here I am. I don't stand alone, though. We all stand here in solidarity with our family members. Mr. Lambert, thank you very much for your response. I did receive your email, and I knew that we couldn't be a part of the agenda, but we're here speaking at the public forum. These teachers were affected by the misrepresentation on behalf of the attorneys. I know that the process for immigration is timely, and I know it can be exhaustive, but you have not exhausted your resources in helping them. It has caused them much anxiety and stress. These teachers are exemplary teachers with vast awards. They teach the best in their class, AP and GT students. These teachers are grounded, and mind you, they're also politically and legally astute. If you review case law regarding teachers that have been deported, it's very not in their favor, but I hope that you will stand with us in favor of them and be with them and have a difference here. Make Garland something that can be recognized for standing by their teachers and not deporting them like other districts have. Thank you, sir, for your words and act of solidarity. I very much appreciate that on behalf of our team. Our teachers' faith is in you, so please commend these teachers and please do not show them the way out because of their faulty and erroneous legal work, not on their behalf. By law, you'll see that they would have continuous hardships. These teachers have actually attended a lot of our meetings out of their way just to be with us, just to have a sign of hope. And we're there by their side. So please let them teach. We're here, so count on us to be there. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Fernando Dominguez.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fernando Dominguez. I'm a resident in Rowlett, Texas, 8517 Russell Drive, Rowlett, Texas. And I'm here as a parent and also as a teacher. I have 2 children who attend school in GISD. And I'm not here to criticize anyone, to point fingers. The word of the Lord says, "Judge not, and you shall not be judged. Condemn not, you shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you shall be forgiven." So I'm here just to speak from the bottom of my heart on behalf of my friends, my teachers, the teachers that I know, especially Alfonso Casares, who, by the way, 16 years ago, gave me my first job as a teacher. So we have this special connection. We call him Poncho, by the way, because he's not just a number. He's not one of those 23 teachers. He's a person with a wife, with a family. So I know that GSD embraces diversity, and I'm just here to ask you, to beg you, to please help these teachers, to act, not just to say that you support them, but to please act on behalf of these teachers, their families. Let me tell you how good these teachers are. They are so committed to teaching that they left their country, they left their families, the food that we all love, to come to this country looking for a better future, because yes, we find it here. But they came here and they are so committed that they are willing every day to leave all of those things just to be here and to educate these children, students who really need quality teachers. And I just want to give you some questions. How am I supposed to stand up every morning in front of my students and recite that this is a country, that this is one nation under God with liberty and justice for all, when justice is not being served here? Also, another question is the district really willing to let these teachers go, these really quality teachers go? This is a question for you. And I just want to finish, I just want to tell my friends here that they are in my prayers every day, every morning, and every night. And just as Bernardo says, just believe in him. The word of the Lord says in the book of Philippians, all things, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So that's what I tell you too. Keep on fighting. We'll keep on praying. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last card. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? If not, we'll take a 10-minute break. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 5, information items. A, present evidence of excellence awards. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Glick. Trustees, Dr. Morrison. Got my partner Arthur here hooking this up for me. I don't even need it, but he's such a diligent worker. He's going to take care of this. We work together all the time, so I'm going to ignore him. It's like he's not even here, the invisible man. Each year, GISD Communications Department attends the Texas School Public Relations Association Conference in Austin. This is a professional group that's dedicated to promoting public schools, public education through its communication initiatives, and has more than 800 members throughout the state. The conference provides professional development, resources, and networking opportunities for communications folks in the education community, and the highlight each year is the Star Awards Banquet. That gives us the opportunity as a district to measure our endeavors against our counterparts in the state. Publications, videos, web pages, photographs, stories, various things that promote public education. The department has been well represented each year, in large part due to the tutelage of one Steve Nagg, long before my arrival, but we have upheld that tradition. Gold Star Awards are the highest honor within each of the categories that are recognized. Typically, there are 5 to 10 Gold Star Awards that are given within those categories. Hundreds of Gold Star Awards literally have been claimed by the Communications Department. However, this past February, a first-time feat was accomplished when we traveled down there. There is a best in category recognition. It acknowledges the top submission in each of the categories that received gold stars. Our department had never before won this best in category for a written piece, but there was one stellar article written by one stellar employee that changed that this year. Tiffany Graber, our communications coordinator, earned the best in category award within published news feature. The piece spotlighted Big Brothers Big Sisters program here in North Texas that pairs senior citizens with elementary age students. At the beginning of each school year, the Club Hill counselor selects 3rd through 5th graders who are deemed littles and could benefit from extra adult attention. And then the Big Brothers Big Sisters group designates bigs and pairs them with the students there at an assisted living complex next door to Club Hill. That was the story she highlighted. It received the highest ranking of outstanding in all 5 categories, which was overall quality of writing, clarity of information presented, the information impact on the reader, creativity, and then does the article accomplish its objectives. The judges' comments included a very touching piece, a great story angle, and extremely well written. And the challenge is going to be for her to take her own picture when she comes up here, so we'll see how good she is. But please help me join and congratulate Tiffany Grady.
I would just like to say thank you to Chris, to the Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Morrison for allowing me to do my job. It's fun. Every day is something new, and I get to go into the campuses and see all of the great things going on. And everybody who ever sends me a thank you for coming out to cover their news piece or something that happened in their classroom, I always send them back that it's not me doing it, and it's really my job is made easy by the great employees and administrators and students and teachers and everybody in this district who do such amazing things and give me something to do every day. So I would just like to say thank you to everyone else.
Okay, we'll go to item B, receive information regarding the Student Information Management System. Dr. Chen?
Yes, we have Jason Genovese and Mark Taylor, project managers, that will start off our presentation, and then Plant Morand, our consultants, will join them. We're excited to share with you the process that we've gone through in selecting a student information management system.
No, that's the Plant Morand. Okay.
Okay, looks like everything's set up, ready to go. Get my notes here on the iPad. My name is Mark Taylor. Good evening, trustees, Dr. Morrison. My name is Mark Taylor. I'm a project manager in the technology department, and I've been with the Garland ISD for about 10 years, primarily working on the Oracle project, but then also working on the new SIMS project as well. If I use the acronym SIMS quite a bit, it's a Student Information Management System, so I'll try to use the full text of it for a little bit, and I'll eventually slip into technicalese after a while and start throwing more abbreviations at you. Just as a general overview of what a SIMS is, it contains most of the core management systems that we use for educational operations. So primarily any kind of attendance that we're doing, student demographics, discipline, any of those things that are affecting a student that we need to track is going to be a part of the SIMS. They're very large systems, and the lifespan is typically 10 to 15 years. With our current mapper system, we've extended that considerably. We really started bringing that online in 1993. Just as a comparison that continues the core, what we call functionality, on the left side of the screen you'll see that's what we currently do with Mapper. On the right side is what we're doing with Skyward, and you can see there's a one-to-one comparison. One of the big differences on this particular slide is that we're going to be able to do online enrollment. And what that means is that we can have students start to fill out part of their information via a PC at home, via an iPad. If they need to go to a school library, there's lots of places where they can go ahead and start that enrollment process. We'll still have to do some proof of residency and verification, and the exact process will need to be defined by student services. But it just really opens up, it's a very convenient tool that will help the families and parents out there. The next slide shows you the core differences of what Mapper doesn't do, and some of the functionality that we're going to get with the new Skyward system. I would like to point out we do have a gradebook system, but it's a totally different system. It's not integrated. It's not part of the core application. And we also have a discipline system, but once again, it's a separate system that doesn't really talk with the core database of our SIMs, and instead we have to write an interface, and it's pretty much just one way. So we're just applying information, and we're not really getting anything out of discipline. This is one of the other big differences, too, is that Mapper, we originally rolled it out in 1993. This is a screenshot of what it looks like. As you can tell, it's a bit dated, and there's some codes and things in there. And for the most part, people really aren't used to seeing information presented in this type of format. This is what Skyward look, and I apologize to the audience, it's a little bit of an eye chart back there. But I'd like to point out a couple things in this particular screenshot. If you look at the top left corner, we're going to be able to select multiple schools. So if you were, say, a diagnostician and you have 2 or 3 schools, you're going to be able to instantly select the schools that you're assigned to, and we control all the security. Also, a real key feature is over toward the right side of the screen, you'll see various little squares and boxes that are colored. For each student, we're going to be able to define a specific flag. So if a student has a peanut allergy, that teacher in the classroom is going to know that that student has a life-threatening condition. If there's a custody issue that the various office personnel need to know when the student's being picked up, they'll be able to pull this up and instantly be aware of any potential custody issues and maybe ask a few more questions. If we have a student that has a problem with truancy and discipline, when that student comes in with a parent to talk to the vice principal or principal, that principal is going to be much more prepared to work with the parent. They'll have all the information right away. In addition to having this information, it's also going to be available on an iPad, mobile device, you name it. So it's going to be very accessible. Also, I'd like to point out the navigation on the left side. That's if you want to drill down into particular areas. In this particular case, the screen is general student information. But if you want to drill down into the exact attendance dates that they've missed, or if you want to look at the grades, any of those are available just with a click or two. And then across the top, you could see additional functionality that's kind of geared toward different users of the system. In this case, it looks like somebody that has this would be probably a senior administrator that has a lot of access to information. All that security we could control and set up. Just a little bit of history of Mapper and the SIM system is in 1993, the first module we brought up was attendance. And then through 1993, well, and just to step back for a second, anyone that's been in technology for a while, you kind of recall of what 1993 meant. I myself, cell phones were just barely coming into being, so I didn't even have a cell phone for another 4 years. The internet, I remember I was in grad school in 1995, and that was the first time I was able to see the internet, and I was through Netscape, so I was really impressed. So just remember that this Mapper technology that our staff's been working with comes from that era. And they've done a fabulous job of not only maintaining it, but as the years have gone by, they've added the functionality. If you recall the slide with the Mapper functionality, that was due to our staff working very diligently through the years to continue to add new features to the system. In 2011, we pretty much recognized as a technology department that it was time to investigate other options with the SIMs. And so we began an internal attempt at building a new system in-house using Microsoft.NET technology. That was not a very successful project. We had a really good working prototype. When Dr. Morrison came on board, we did a comprehensive project overview of where we were on our internal project. Mr. Highsall, myself, as the project manager, and Mr. Pierce, along with Dr. Morrison, all sat together and did a comprehensive project review. And what we determined was that we were only able to really dedicate 1.5 employees full-time to the development of this internal system. And after Dr. Morrison reviewed it, he said we really need to be able to have something within a year, approximately. And based on our progress and the number of people we had, it just wasn't going to happen. Also, we had good functionality, but once again, if you look at what Skyward and these package solutions offer, they just don't offer the same level. We couldn't build all of that into our new system. And then so we asked, well, what would it take to do it within a year? And we thought, well, 5 contractors working a year at an industry rate of about $125 an hour comes up to $1.5 million. And at that point, we went around the room and everyone agreed that we really needed to look at procuring a system instead of building one. And everybody was pretty much in agreement with that. There was some considerable discussion, but that was the decision at the end of the meeting. One of the things that Dr. Morrison always expresses is to think about how every decision we make impacts a student. And so we even did that exercise with the SIMS project, and I thought about it pretty extensively. And I was thinking about the online enrollment is going to really save these parents and families some time, as well as our student services staff. Teacher access to student information. There's going to be really tight communication between the students and their teachers. There's a student portal, there's a parent portal, and there's a teacher portal. And all of these are kind of geared toward looking at the data from that perspective. So a student is going to be able to look at their assignments. They're going to be able to look at the different curriculum. They're going to be able to communicate with their teachers in a controlled environment. Mobility. I mean, really, we're talking about reaching the kids of today. It's going to be on an iPad. It's going to be on a mobile phone. I have a daughter at Hudson Middle School, and that's just how they communicate. And so we're going to be able to meet that need and that desire. And then I just mentioned the portals. The portals are really geared toward those kids being able, and families being able to communicate better. So really, I would summarize the Skyward. What it's going to give us is going to give us more information, more functionality in a more accessible, common environment that can be reached by various devices and not just a PC or even just a phone call. And then some of the back office things that's not necessarily student impacting is going to be internet web-based. So there's not any plugins, there's not anything you have to download, there's no technical requirements that a family is going to have to put on their computer or install any software. One of the really interesting things is we're a very diverse community, and Mapper just supports English and Spanish, but Skyward we have 70 languages that are supported right out of the box. That basically you go into a portal and you'll see on the right side of the screen, you can choose the language that you want all the forms and information to be in. Improved application integration. And what that really means is integration. The two examples I called out was the discipline and one of our special ed systems. Currently our special ed people, they have to go in and they're using a product called eSped. They maintain all the ARDS and special ed information in there. But then in order to meet state requirements, they've got to turn around and put the same information, key it in manually into Mapper. So that type of workload on our staff goes away, plus the information quality is better. And then I just would like to highlight the last point, which is we're just going to get a lot more functionality. We're going to be able to do a lot more things and communicate with our students and parents better. And my last point before I turn it over to my co-project manager is this works really well with a couple of major initiatives at Garland ISD. The first is the wireless upgrade that Mr. Hysaw in the technology department has been working on to expand the capability for mobile devices throughout our campuses. And I've already touched on how the mobility works with Skyward. Another one, too, is that we're rolling out iPads to the teachers, and this is going to give them a really useful application so that they can not only explore their iPads over the summer, but when we come back, we're going to have some of the functionality set up for the school year, especially attendance. So they're going to be able to start utilizing those iPads right away in the classroom. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jason Genovese. He's my fellow project manager. What he's going to do is he's going to take the timeline. So basically, just to catch you up where we are on the timeline of SIMS, is we've made the decision to go ahead and procure a new system. And Jason's going to go ahead and highlight the process that we've gone through so far and how we're selecting and making a recommendation to you on the new system.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Taylor? I do have one, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, based on your timeline you presented, it says 2011 internal attempt at building a new student system.
Yes, sir.
So that started
about that time, in 2011. I came on board in 2012. And the first initial is we tried to have an outside consulting firm build it for us. And it just didn't work so well. When we did a project review, the first stage, we looked at their work and we weren't satisfied with the results that we were getting. So at that point, we made a decision, okay, well, let's try to use our internal staff and see if we can build a student system.
And when did that part of it start?
That was approximately 2012, about April or May. So it was about 1 year later from when it initially kicked off. Because we met in 2013 after a year's project work.
I guess what's confusing me is, at some point, somebody made the decision that the existing mapper was not functional and decided, let's try to do it in-house, right?
Yes.
Okay. Knowing that there were programs out there like the ones that we're going to see in a few moments. Why would, do you know, or does anybody know why that decision was made?
I'll claim that one.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't entirely yours, but.
No. We've always tried to get a new student system. Starting in about 2010, we've never been funded to receive it. So we did what we call a Skunk Works project. Ms. Griffith probably knows. It's a project that has a minimal amount of funding, and we thought we had the right resources that we could put together and we could enhance Mapper. We could not enhance the product, so we started building our own product. We had some programmers in-house that we were in the process. Initially, we were really in the process of gathering data to build ourselves a data warehouse so that we could give more data to the people that needed data, special ed, special programs, nurses, and try to do it in an HTML mode, an internet type mode. But we never really had full funding to move forward with a new student system, so we just thought we would put it together and do what we could. When Dr. Morrison came in, we did a real evaluation of the product, a real evaluation of the task, and then he said, go out and take a look at, we've got funding, let's go out and take a look at the system. So I take full ownership of us working on our system internally to try to move us forward.
Even though when that process started, we knew there was other software out there that might be able to be purchased, I'm just trying to worry, what was the internal discussions?
The internal discussions was that the funding we were spending had 1 comma, the funding that you're about to spend has 2 commas.
Yes.
And we never had that much money.
And so the decision was never made that there was a reason to approach the board and see if.
No, I was never given the ability to approach the board and say, hey, what do you guys think? We just decided that. If you remember, back in 2011-ish, and Dr. Barajas can help us out, we were under financial constraints, huge financial constraints. So us going out and getting new systems was not even something we talked about. We barely talked about replacing our computers. If you remember, I think we only spent about $1.5 million replacing about 2,000 computers during that time frame.
Dr. Mark.
You bet. I think I want to add a couple things just for the general public who we probably have lost by now, but maybe they'll go back and watch the rest of this at some point. 2010 and 11, we spent $234,000 with consultants on what we're talking about, this development, another 242 in 2011, 12, and another 141 in 2012, 13. So we have right at around $600,000 into this project. And so when the discussion took place with technology, and to Jim's credit and also Mark's credit, we sat there and we went around the room and we were discussing what the timeline would be if we continued on. Best case scenario was 1.5 years, and that was just to get, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm pretty accurate with this. Best case scenario, around 1.5 years. It was going to cost around $1.5 million to get somebody to come in and help us develop it, and we were only going to get student attendance and grades out of that initial investment of 1.5. So from my perspective, I was looking at, we already had around $600,000 invested, another 1.5. And if you remember that second page of what Mapper did not offer, grade books, special ed, we have programs where our parents can go and add money to their students' accounts. Skyward can actually do that if we choose to use their program. So we weren't even scratching the surface. And as far as then we get to that critical mass, if everybody remembers the new legislative session last year in House Bill 5, and a lot more tracking of students, counselors meeting with students and those kinds of things. Mapper couldn't do that. we would have had to buy another program just to track the counselors meeting with the students, of which any program, whether that would be Skyward or any of these other programs, they will naturally update that to match legislative updates. So we would have been a year and a half behind. We wouldn't have only maybe had 1/4 of what we would have gotten if we went outside, and the initial cost, it would have, in the long run, cost a lot more money. So the decision was stop spending the money on this. I went around the room and I asked every one of them. I said, yes or no, do we continue or not? And every one of them, and they're the people that were here before I got here, and they had 3 years invested, and they said, we can't do it to the level that we need to. And to their credit, I appreciate them doing that, and we decided to move on, and that's where we are today.
Yeah, the beautiful thing, don't think that your money's wasted. You have a document.
Right.
Plant Moran and Skyward has a document now. It's probably about this thick. I don't know how many pages it is, of all the business processes, not the business processes financially, but the special ed, the grading, the scheduling. We have all the processes documented, which is something that we didn't do when we initially initiated the Oracle system. We didn't sit down and understand all the business processes. We have a full understanding of everything that goes on in this district, from a student standpoint, from a parent standpoint, from a grading standpoint, from a scheduling, from a health. We have all of that documented now, which is an advantage to us as we migrate.
Well, and I'd just like to add also, in addition to processes, we have a database.
Correct.
And our intent is when, if Skyward's approved, we're going to use this database that we've built that's got the student information and help feed the Skyward system during the implementation project.
And that's what I was trying to get at. So the information that was developed in the programs will be helpful in moving along?
Exactly.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Griffin.
Would you go back a couple of slides and explain to me what it means by internet web-based?
Sure, absolutely. That basically means that anything that has a web browser, and it doesn't matter if it's Chrome or if it's Firefox or Internet Explorer, that you'll be able to access this Skyward system without any plugins, software, anything like that. So if you have an internet connection in a browser, you can connect to the system.
Okay, I'm going to speak in English. I'm going to
sure,
speak in English
absolutely.
here. Okay, that was a very technical answer.
Right.
I understood.
That means, okay, I know, but not everybody. I'm just
Right.
for everybody. I knew you might have, but this means if Skyward has an app for iPhones and Android phones, you could tap on that app and access your student's account from the office. You don't have to be on a computer with a hard line. If you have internet access at home, or you're sitting there at Starbucks or someplace and you want to pull up your student's grades and you have an iPad or some kind of Android device, you could do that. And so it's different now. If our teachers are wanting to access Mapper, they're physically going to have to be
At a PC.
At a PC.
With some special software installed.
Correct.
So what's the platform? What's the technical platform for Skyward?
The database is a, help me out here, it's Progress database. And then the front end is really HTML5. I'm getting a little technical here, but that's a new standard that allows all of this accessibility that Dr. Morrison was speaking of. So it's HTML5, JavaScript, and then on a Progress database as far as the back end.
Ms. Griffin, the way the system's set up is the same way we set up our service. It's a virtual system environment. It has the ability to be located here, either at the district in our network operations center. It can be located in another network operating center, which is what they call the cloud for everybody else. It's simply a bunch of servers together that talk to each other. We haven't made the decision to buy the equipment located here, located off-site. We're still in the process. We do realize this is a good product for the district. Technically, we've looked at Louisville. I understand how Highland Park's set up. I understand how Mansfield's set up. Fort Bend just set it up. They're all deciding where to put the hardware that this operates on, depending on how they want to do it. We're still looking at that scenario. We have multiple choices in that. The storage system can reside here, can reside somewhere else. They'll back it up automatically. We are looking at, for sure, a system that is a managed system. In other words, somebody from Skyward will log into that system, perform the upgrades for us, manage the system for us, analyze the system, run the backups for us, move that information to a location. But where it sits right now, we haven't really gone into the strict detail that takes.
And you've mentioned school districts that are smaller than us. And
Yeah, Fort Bend.
so what is your best technical, and maybe I shouldn't put you on the spot, knowledge of what would be best for a district our size, or maybe the question should be, what's the negative of a district our size of having this reside?
75,000. Yeah, Ms. Griffin, I think Fort Bend initiated this. You take a look at the Mansfields and the Highland Park; they're a little bit smaller, but Fort Bend initiated it. Louisville, Fort Bend 75,000.
Yeah.
Louisville are they 55, 57? They're when we went over there and talked to them, they're just like us. I mean, even their staff that is working on the system is just like our staff. I mean, they're the same type of individuals. They're the gig database people. They're the people that build the servers together. Basically, it's a VM environment, virtual environment with multiple servers. We'll put the number. I don't really know how many servers. I don't remember how many servers Louisville had, but they sit and they're in virtual states, so they share processing power. The system that most people are using to store the data is the same system we already have. It's XIO. Most of the school district are using that. Very few are using EMC. And then the other devices are the same thing we're used to using. So technically, we have no problem with this system whatsoever. And we're just working through the wheres it's going to sit and how it's going to be operated. But we know they're going to manage it.
Okay, and you said online, let me make sure, online enrollment under the Skyward system. So that would handle all of our choice process? Or would the online application be interfacing and feeding the rest of the choice process?
Well, one of the limitations of a package solution is since there's not a large number of choice districts out there.
Exactly.
Is that we're going to have to do some type of workaround our customization. And let's see, is Babetta still here?
But the deal is we can't feed this online enrollment process into what we're using right now for choice. So we would have to do something, write something, do an interface for us to complete our choice process.
Right, and I'd like to have Babetta come because she's actually discussed that exact topic with the vendor, the potential vendor in this solutions. But yes, there's going to have to be some additional work done to accommodate our choice.
And we're thinking of having the vendor tailor that functionality for us within our version of Skyward that we would install here.
At the very least, the information that we get right now from Mapper is basically just a database. We use that database, run macros in Excel in order to do our choice of school process. So we're manually doing that. What we're hoping is by working with Skyward, we'll be able to automate that process. They'll create an algorithm for us, and instead of all the manual time that we spend a couple of weeks and even through the weekend working on it, we'll be able to handle all that within the system.
So that'll be an add-on to
that will
what
be an
we
add-on
get from Skyward.
But at the very least, we would just be able to pull the database
Understand, but
and run our Excel like
but
we're
it
doing
doesn't
now.
exist right now. So that
Right.
we would be asking them, that would be an add-on functionality.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we do know of a couple of school districts that are doing the choice process through Skyward, Port St. Lucie in Florida. They're a bit smaller than we are, but we do have other districts that are using choice of school within
Thank you.
Skyward.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and advance and bring Jason back up to continue basically we're going to pick on the decision we decided to go ahead and buy a new system. And I'll turn it over to Jason to give you some details on that process.
And before you start, let me thank you we've had multiple conversations over the last several days, and you furnished me all the information I asked, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Glick. Good evening, and Dr. Morrison and trustees, good evening to you. As Mark said, we've given you a little bit of background and information as far as what a student information management system is, what its history is in the district, all 21 years that we've spent on MAPPR. Moving forward is what we're interested in. Moving forward, we have developed an RFP for student system consulting services. The reason why we went out for this RFP, and this was back in May of 2013 after we made this decision to move forward with procuring a system, the reason we went out for consulting services is to have a third-party consultant help us and guide us through this process. In our RFP, we requested 4 phases of services. Number 1 was our needs assessment. Number 2 was our RFP development, which came straight out of the district's needs assessment. And as we move forward to phase 3, we've analyzed and are looking to evaluate our responses, and then ultimately phase 4 consisted of project management and ongoing oversight. The RFP that we put out in May was distributed to 150 vendors, and we received 4 responses. At that time, we selected a finalist, and on June 25th of 2013, we took Plant Moran before the board, of which you awarded. Now let me take a break from the timeline and step forward and talk a little bit about Plant Moran. They were founded in 1924, and they're the 13th largest management consulting and certified public accounting firm in the United States. They have a staff of over 2,000 professionals, and they operate 21 national and international offices and provide a broad array of professional services, including management consulting, IT consulting, personal financial planning services, accounting, auditing, and tax consulting. Within the realm of IT consulting, Plant Moran has provided student system consulting services for educational clients for over 25 years. They provide a full range of services including planning, selection, contract negotiations, and implementation services. And this is exactly what GISD was looking for when we went out for our SIMS consulting partner. They deal with more than 150 educational clients, and they're an active member of the Association of School Business Officials and the American Association of School Personnel Administrators. These are the national affiliates to TASBO and TASPA here in Texas. Probably the most important item to me in some of the selection committee and the steering committee is in dealing and working with Plant Moran over the last 9 months side by side. What we've seen is that they've really set us up for success. I know that we wouldn't be this far at this point in time if we were to go this alone without the outside help. It's their experience, their methodologies, the things that they do day in and day out, that coupled with an engaged GISD staff here, have set the foundation for us being able to select a student system that meets our requirements, and not only our requirements. When I say that, I mean the needs of the GISD staff, the students, and the parents. And ultimately what they've done is set us up for the best opportunity at a successful student implementation. So that's a little bit about Plant Moran, and again, that's the partner that we selected back in June of last year, and who's been helping us out this past 9 months for our selection process. So when we brought them on, we awarded them in June, and immediately we turned around in July after spring break. We kicked off our project. Phase 1 was the needs assessment. Much like the facilities assessment that you guys have seen in the last year, this was a comprehensive analysis of GISD's technology capabilities, the student system capabilities and limitations, identifying our future needs, and then also any kind of gaps between those that we would expect that a new student system should address. In terms of involvement with the district, over the next month we held 33 sessions with input from both campus and administrative staff. Some of that involvement came from educational operations, health services, student services, curriculum and instruction, research assessment and accountability, and there were several other divisions and departments involved across the entire district. In terms of also roles involved across all those departments and divisions, we also enlisted everyone from teachers to principals to counselors, central administrators, and also obviously campus administrators, registrars, data clerks, attendance clerks. So we really kind of hit the breadth of the district's operations, especially as it relates to the student system processes. Going forward from there, that was about 2 months of needs assessment, and in September of 2013 is when we completed that, wrapped it all up. We spent the month of October bundling all that needs assessment up and coming up with our RFP that would, this is our second RFP, that we would put on the street and actually go out for our student information system vendor and implementation partner. At that point, by December 4th, I believe the proposals were due. We began receiving our responses back. It was solicited to, I believe, 18 vendors, and we received 5 responses. So that took us into phase 3. Phase 2 was developing the RFP and then putting it on the street. And phase 3 takes us into actually receiving those responses back to the district, working with purchasing on them, having Plant Moran help us with the analysis, the evaluation of those proposals, and then the district handling its due diligence. So let me talk a little bit about that. Our 30-member selection committee was highly involved throughout the process, along with up to 90 other team members across those areas I addressed, plus Plant Moran. We'll talk a little bit more about that also after I speak. We had several meetings in December, January, February timeframe with the selection committee, and what we did was we got together and evaluated those proposals and the responses against the selection criteria that was defined back in our needs assessment. So we weighted those and we scored them. We conducted reference checks. Those reference checks were done like with the districts that Ms. Griffin is talking about. The reference checks we asked, or the references that we asked for in our RFP were districts of comparable size and operation to GISD. We were not looking for districts that are down in the 20,000 enrollment range and similar employee size. We were looking for districts our size so we could compare those. So those were the districts that we did reference checks with. All good reference checks. We hosted 3 days of demonstrations with both Skyward and SunGuard, our 2 finalists, side by side at the Curtis Colwell Center. We also conducted site visits, as Jim Highsaw said. We went out to Louisville ISD. Every functional chair that was on our committee, for the most part, reached out to their counterparts at Louisville ISD, amongst other districts also, and we went out and looked. And we participated with those other members at those districts and got a lot of detailed feedback as far as their Skyward operations. And then lastly, as we wrap things up, we went through several rounds of clarifications with both Skyward and SunGuard in terms of working through our best and final offers. We had to, the clarifications also get us to compare apples to apples because some are different on requirements, some are different on cost, and multiple other things in the services they provide. So if at all possible, we leveled those out so we could be as objective as possible. And that brings us to where we're at today. So at this point, that takes us all the way through the 9 months of selection process. That was July 2013 through essentially today in March of 2014. And at this point, I'll hand it off to Amy Sasina and also Marv Sawyer. These are our consulting partners at Plant Moran. They're going to talk a little bit more about the proposal in detail and also the remaining project timeline.
Anybody have any questions?
I would just like to, before they come, the representatives from Plant Moran come up, if you were served on this committee and you are still here, would you stand up so the board can see I think a lot of those people are here today, so just wanted you to be aware that of the different groups that were involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's that? Oh, okay. Mr. Glick, Dr. Morrison, trustees, good evening. Thank you for having us here this evening. We're going to cover a few items with you. The things that are repetitive to what you've already heard, we're going to go over quickly. Don't need to rehash it unless you have questions. But some of what we had was the scope and the approach and timing. You've already been through that, so we'll go through that rather quickly. Project structure, we wanted to give you a little bit more background on that, but if you have questions, let us know. And then Amy's going to go into proposal overview, get into a little bit more detail on that, the ratings, and implementation. So we'll spend more of our time on that and less on the upfront time, which means you won't see as much of me up here. So from a scope standpoint, I think you've already heard about this. We wanted to, there was a comparison that Mark gave of what was included in MAPR versus what you were looking at in a new system. These are really rehashing those modules, if you will. Gradebook, student records, a parent portal, a lot of classroom components that the teacher could access, scheduling, report writer. We just wanted to make sure you understood the scope of what we were looking at and what we call some of the optional modules. Because when we start going through the analysis, you'll need to know what was in the base system that we were comparing and what were some of the optional modules, and Amy will point that out. I think Jim already mentioned as well that we were looking for both a hosted model and one that was here. So the idea is the equipment is either housed here or it's housed somewhere else in the cloud, as Jim alluded to. You've seen this. Jason kind of walked through it. This is a little different pictorial representation, but it pretty much says the same thing, that we started in July and we went through all the way through our analysis. The only thing that we might want to point out is, you know, as was alluded to, we've been through this process a number of times with a number of school districts. Why did we spend so much time then going through a needs assessment and doing all these steps? We already obviously have done a number of RFPs and we have specifications that we've used before. What we haven't done is gone through that process with GISD. So we spent that time learning the unique characteristics of Garland and using that then to look at how do we need to refine the specifications. We did start with a list of specifications that we've seen that we call best practice specifications, but those were modified to fit then the needs that we found here so that it could be, again, customized to your unique needs. The other pieces of it in terms of taking the proposal out and going through all those steps, I think Jason covered those very well. This gives a graphic of the structure, the governance of this project. And at the top we had a steering committee. I'm going to spend just a minute going through kind of the roles of the groups that were involved. The selection committee is already alluded to, a group of about 30 people, both here at Central Office, but campus representation, so a variety of different departments and areas represented by that. When we went through the needs assessment, we had facilitators that are part of Jim's team, the IS staff, and then we also had functional chairs that worked with, again, additional representation throughout whatever area it might be. And those groups could have ranged anywhere from 6 people, 8 people on up, to get, again, a broad representation of people and to get as much input as we could. When you look, this actually is a slide that gives, we wanted to give a little bit more detail. I don't know that that was in the packet. We just wanted to make sure you understood the steering committee was kind of helping us with the overall project, timelines, participation, and also helping with final recommendations. The selection committee, that big cross-functional group, reviewed the RFP. Also, some of them looked at the proposals that came in, helped us identify finalist vendors, did a lot of the due diligence. That group invested a lot of time and effort, not that the steering committee did. And that group also put in a number of hours in demonstrations, in sitting in those functional meetings, and in giving us the feedback that we needed. I already mentioned a little bit about the facilitators and functional team chairs that were really responsible for gathering that input, and then the team members that really participated in it. But we want to give you that added level of background of what the governance structure looked like for this. So with that, Amy, turn over to you.
Good evening, Mr. Glick, Dr. Morrison, and trustees. Thank you for allowing us to present this information to you. I want to give you a proposal overview. So we, as Jason alluded to, we received 5 proposals. One of them, Focus School Software, we disqualified at the beginning. They didn't meet our minimum requirements, which was that they must be installed in a Texas district with over 35,000 students for 3 years. Focus School is installed in 2 districts, not for 3 years, and not of the same size. So that left us with 4 vendors. We have Prologic, which offered the Teams software, and that is actually a Texas-based software only. We have Skyward, which we've talked a little bit about. We have SunGuard, which offers eSchool Plus, and we have Tyler, which offers the Tyler SIS. Skyward, SunGuard, and Tyler are national software packages, whereas Prologic, as I mentioned, is Texas-based. We did ask for some optional modules, specifically health services, special ed, student assessment and testing, and instructional materials management. None of the vendors offered instructional materials management. They offer components of it, but not an official module. Health services was offered by Skyward and Tyler, and SunGuard offered special ed and student assessment and testing. We made these modules optional because they are not standard to all systems. Typically, we'll see these as integrated add-ons for some systems. And as Marv alluded to earlier, and as Jim alluded to as well, we have the premise-based and the SaaS or hosted. Through the first 3 vendors, Prologic, Skyward, and SunGuard all offered both models. Tyler only offered the premise-based model. So we looked at the vendors in the proposals on a functional base. So what we mean by functional is really how well does this meet the needs of the users? So how does this meet the needs of the administrators, of the teachers, of the students, of the parents? And so we worked with the team as part of the needs assessment and the development of the RFP to define requirements. And we assigned priorities, high, medium, low. We then asked the vendors to respond to those priorities and gave us a percentage, which is really a paper percentage of what the vendor perceives their requirements meet. So for Skyward, they met 83% of our requirements. SunGuard 87, Prologic 81, and Tyler 75. We also the only additional optional module that we're really considering at this point is the health services, and so we noted that on here as well. Skyward offered a 92% compliance, and Tyler offered 79%. With regards to narrowing it down to the finalists, we met in early January, and we determined that Skyward and SunGuard were the 2 vendors that we wanted to really look at for a number of reasons. We felt that they had the best vendor background overall. They had the best functional requirements. They had the best technical solutions, and they just ranked higher on all of the various areas that we looked at. So going forward, I'll really be talking through Skyward and SunGuard. If you see NA, that's why. So we did reference checks on Skyward and SunGuard, And we asked each area. So health services contacted health services at the reference district. Student services contacted student services at the reference district. We had some principals contacting principals at the reference districts. And for each vendor, they contacted 3 to 4 districts. And we asked the districts to rate the vendors on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being fully compliant, meets their needs, they're efficient, they don't have any concerns with the vendor. 3, it meets their needs, but they have some concerns. And 1 is there's really minimal or no compliance. So we came back with an average of a 4.73 rating for Skyward and 3.75 for SunGard. For health services, 4.1 for Skyward and 3.05 for SunGard. Now, the reference checks were conducted, some were conducted prior to seeing the vendor demos, some were conducted after seeing the vendor demos. So the vendor demos really are the chance where district staff got a chance to see the actual systems. So we brought in everybody from the selection committee, from the steering committee, and some additional functional team staff that were involved in the needs assessment and the RFP definition. They got to sit down. We had the vendors here for a period of 3 days over in the Curtis Caldwell Center. We had a nice setup. They were all able, vendors had a room to demonstrate for the entire 3 days. We brought the functional teams in to see their specific areas as well as an overview of each vendor, and asked them at the end to rate the vendors. At the end, we had 76% of staff preferred Skyward, 16% preferred SunGard. And a little bit more detail about that following this. So this slide here, part of the survey that we conducted, we asked each staff member to identify what area they saw. And so if they saw the report writer, if they saw the portal, and by portal we mean really the classroom component, the parent portal, if they saw student records, we wanted them to rate each of those individual areas. And so for each of those areas, everyone preferred Skyward. There was a number that said SunGard would work, and a number that said either vendor would work. But in all the categories, it was either Skyward or either vendor will work. No category preferred Skyward, SunGard, excuse me. Too many S's. And then the overall preference. This is where we got the 76% rating. So we asked them to indicate what their preferred vendor was. So we gave them 4 options. Do you prefer Skyward? Do you prefer SunGard? Will either vendor work? Or do you prefer Skyward, but you could live with SunGard, and vice versa? So as you can see, 51% preferred Skyward, another 25% preferred Skyward, but said that SunGard would work. 5% preferred SunGard, and 10% SunGard is preferred, but Skyward would work. Remaining 8% said either one would work. So really 76% preferred Skyward, with 15% preferring SunGard. The overall pricing, we have the 5-year total cost. It's important to note that year 1 includes the one-time cost, so it includes the software license, it includes all the implementation services, which would be data conversion, project management, installation, configuration, and one of the largest components is training. So the one-time cost, obviously significantly higher than the annual ongoing cost. Years 2 through 5 would be the ongoing costs that you would continue to incur every year. And it's important to note that Skyward includes the health services module, which SunGard did not offer. Some overall proposal rating. We looked at, as I mentioned, the vendor fit. So how well does this vendor fit with Garland ISD? How are their references? How is their overall reputation? Are they a stable company? When looking at that, Skyward is the state preferred vendor, and they have a large number of installs in comparable references, and there were no concerns identified by references. The functional requirements, which we've talked about a lot in detail, really the key things there, the demo survey and the references rated Skyward significantly higher. The technical solution, SunGard was rated higher. They have a more standard database. They have the SQL database. But when in talking with the technical staff, they said that really either one would work, and they wanted what was best for the functional staff. And that gave us the rating of 1.25 for Skyward and 1.75 for SunGuard, with 1 being the highest. The implementation timeline. So phase 1 would go live prior to the start of next school year, would include student records and demographics, reports, all the classroom components, so everything that the teacher sees, which would be attendance, grade book, would include the parent portal, truancy, state reporting, and grade reporting and transcripts. Phase 2 would go live shortly thereafter by January of 2015. That would be secondary scheduling. In phase 3 would be the remaining components. So elementary scheduling, discipline and behavior, choice of school, the remaining portals and dashboards, health services, the eSped interface, and any other interfaces that are required. With that, we'll open it up to any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Axe.
Thank you for that presentation. I particularly want to thank Jim and Mark, because I figure with about another year I'll become fully fluent in Klingon by listening to y'all. I think the system seems to be a great improvement over what we have, and I see no problems with it whatsoever. But I have a major concern in looking at what you've presented, and that is I see nothing in here about the schedule for training teachers how to use it.
We've actually developed a very, very detailed schedule.
When, how long, how in depth, and what are we going to take away from the teachers so that they'll have time to do it?
So we have it built into the, and Mark and Jason step in as you see appropriate, we have it built into the initial PD prior to the start of the school year, the initial professional development. And so we have, we've asked Skyward to identify how long. I believe it is 3 or 4 hours per area for the teachers. And so we're going to bring in, I think we identified 250 teachers. We're also going to bring in the trainers and the associate principals, and have everybody trained initially. They're going to go back and then train the campuses. And we have a very complicated matrix that shows how everybody's going to be trained, because we realize that the training really is critical. And in making a system succeed, we understand that training, if you don't train the staff, it's not going to work.
I was at Garland High School when we piloted the current gradebook program, and we were scheduled to do it every in-service for an entire school year, and the system crashed every in-service, and we never got any training on it. So I'm very concerned with this. I don't want our staff winding up having to spend extra time on their own learning this system. 3 hours sounds like a very short period of time to master a system like this. Is it so much more user-friendly than Mapper that it's gives them the opportunity to do it, to learn it that much more quickly?
Correct. They're already used to using a student system, albeit with much more limited capabilities. This is a much more graphical user interface. It's going to be similar to anything that you would use. It's going to be you're going to be using your internet browser or your iPad. You're going to have, it's going to be very graphical. You're going to be able to click on one area, input everything that you need, or visualize everything that you need. It's a very intuitive program.
And this is scheduled for in-service this coming August?
Correct.
Mr. Axe, we sent in attachment 4 the documents that were sent to you all this morning. Skyward put together their implementation schedule. It's a really small font, but again, it's a sample. It does have the training in that document that Skyward sent us, and Jovan and I have already been talking about how we would not add anything new, and we would make the focus the new implementation, because we know the critical part with the training and the time that we have to get to know it before school starts.
I'm I'm hearing a great deal of feedback from teachers that I talk to that they're really tired of new stuff, and they're really worried about being able to deal with all of the new stuff, and that concerns me that we're going to push this into next school year when they've been dealing with a lot of new stuff already.
I'd like to address that. I went and spoke to all the teachers last year, all 71 campuses, and the number one technology concern in this district was Mapper. I shared all those results with the board. You have all of those. And I think the teachers, it might be a little painful to learn something new, because new is not necessarily easy. But I think within about 2 to 3 days of being able to do one login, get to all of the different portals, have all the communications with the parents have 70 languages that we can communicate with parents on grades and stuff. Teachers are one small component of this. Although we will train them and we will make sure we take care of them, it's also about the kids, the parents. It's about providing service. The things that we currently cannot do, the number one concern last year was Mapper, and that is clearly stated. So I think it's important to know we will take care of the teachers. We added an extra day. If you remember, we have 7 days of in-service in August. Normally, a lot of times, this year we had 6. We have 1 extra day this year. And I think that 1 extra day, what will end up happening is once teachers get trained, they will go and start playing with the system, asking questions. We have trainer of trainers. There will be teachers that will be experts on that campus. So here's my buddy across the hall that's been trained. Yes, I just sat through a 2-hour training, but I can go back and ask that person. And I think that trainer of trainer models, which is what they're talking about doing, has been very successful in districts all over the state of Texas. So I'm very confident that the staff will be able to pull this off.
Is that it, Mr. X? Ms. Griffin?
Yes, let me thank you all for such an in-depth. I had a bunch of questions and reservations coming into this. I was not sure of the due diligence, and since I've spent a lifetime in IT, I appreciate the thoroughness of what I see. I too am concerned more about the implementation. There's one thing to have a need in terms of what we would like to have. There's another thing to implement the need so that the people who need it can benefit from it. So explain to me in details how much training will the trainer have? How much more training will that trainer have? And who are those trainers? Are those our computer, I don't know what they're called now, that we have on every campus, or what? Who are those people? Who are going to be the trainers?
So there's the...
Well, and Jason and I can both kind of speak to this. Actually, we've already had initial discussions with Dr. Wells, and what we were looking at doing is actually utilizing the assistant principals in particular, and this is Mr. Sloan came up with this idea, as well as some of the technology coordinators, and then having an additional approximately 500, is that about right? Yeah. About 500 liaisons or experts that are going to be on campus that are going to be those buddies across the hall that they can go to. So that's really what we're looking at. And to be honest with you, a lot of the implementation type things, right now we're just looking at procuring the system, and we have a lot of planning. The very detailed, down to the wire type planning is once a vendor's approved, then we're going to go into that mode.
But your thought is the assistant principals
Right.
will become the trainers, along with, what are the technology people on the campus called? It escapes me.
Technology integration coaches.
Okay,
Exactly.
so they would be part of the trainers too?
Absolutely. And there's technology integration coaches. There's one in each subject area. So these are teachers that teach the same subject they can work with a science group, they can work with a math group. So they've already been assigned on campuses, and they will all be trained along with the assistant principal to help those teachers. So
Okay, so they will go through a more in-depth training than when you're bringing in the regular teachers for the regular training. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's
I mean,
correct.
most of the regular teachers are going to be on campus, and they're not going to receive a formal
Right, but
Skyward
these-
training.
right.
But these individuals would then turn around and train the campus staff. We're also looking at some very in-depth online training as a supplemental
Okay.
To help out. That's one of the things we're pushing very hard for. Make sure we include it.
And I think it's also important, in addition, how many school districts, do anybody know off the top of their head, Skyward's in statewide?
102.
102. There's a very strong chance that there's teachers in almost every building in this district that have had used Skyward use in other districts who have they're already experts in it because they came to us from another district that used Skyward, and now we use Mapper. So we probably already have. I don't have a percentage. I can't tell you how many, but I know it would be. There's absolutely people that we currently have in our schools right now that have used Skyward.
Okay, and the other thing I want to make sure I heard is that during the summer, we're not going to implement anything else that will require teachers or campuses to be trained in getting ready to open the school year in 2014. I think what I heard is we are going to focus on staff development for people being proficient in using this system so that we don't miss a beat when school begins. Is that what I heard?
That's correct. And one of the things we're doing is we're working very closely with Dr. Wells.
Kind of looking over here.
Yeah, exactly. And I am too, because that's who we're working with as well.
I'll just repeat what Dr. Chance mentioned before. We're trying to focus on this implementation. So what we normally do in the past, we would have like a retreat or we'd have a nuts and bolts. Well, that will become our training for principals, for teachers. That is our focus because we want to make sure that they are ready for the beginning of school. So we're putting all of our energy and focus onto this new system. We know it's something new for them. So we are making sure that we're devoting that time for them. Absolutely.
Okay, and I think everyone will welcome it. It's just that we just need to implement it correctly, and we need to allocate the time for the training. One last question. Tell me, do these modules naturally break up the way you have them in terms of phase one? Are they so interrelated that that's why you listed these modules for phase one? And then I noticed that phase two just has secondary scheduling, and I'm assuming because we need that addition for our choice piece. And then I'm going to assume after we get secondary scheduling done, elementary scheduling will be kind of a breeze. And then the rest of those modules fit naturally together. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, that's a correct assumption. We talked initially about how we want to get everything up and ready for the classroom components and the key areas. Secondary, and I want to note too that once we start the secondary scheduling, there will likely be some planning for phase three occurring during the same time. And so it may be up before August of 15, but the rollout and the go live will be August of 15. And so it will occur concurrently as it makes sense.
I thought I had one. That was my last one, but it's not. What is your drop dead date of knowing that we are going to be successful in August? Do you all, with all of the training, the planning, the implementation, is there a date that before August that you have in your mind that would cause us to pause?
So as Mark mentioned earlier, we're going to be developing a very detailed implementation plan. And so there'll be a number of milestones along that plan. And so if we, for any reason those milestones are delayed, that would cause us to pause. I do want to point out that throughout this whole process of the selection, your staff has been amazing. We have hit every timeline. We've had great support from everybody from the steering committee, the project managers, and from all of your staff. And so I don't have doubt that we're going to succeed in this because everybody's super dedicated, everybody's super excited about it. And so I really see this as a successful project.
Thank you, and I'm looking for a great implementation.
Any other questions? I have a few. So it seems that we've just about decided that Skyward is the project. And even though the cost is almost exactly 50% more than SunGard, So, in this process, were the dollars ever mentioned to anybody that we're about to choose something that's 50% more expensive? Was that ever a concept? Was that ever a consideration? I'm just wondering. I mean, in the past, we've talked about low-cost vendors, equal vendors, and apparently we're ready to choose the most expensive vendor. I just want to make sure that somewhere along the line, maybe the people who were looking at all the charts we have that measured what was best, what was worst, knew that, yes, they were picking what they liked best. It was also 50% more expensive.
Yes, sir. Mr. Glick, the committee as well as the RFP document weighted each one of the criteria. Price had a weighting, meeting the needs of the district, just like we do in all of our procurements. We identify the weighted criteria, identify a weight to those, and apply those weights to each supplier. So pricing was evaluated. I would tell you that meeting the needs of the district was a greater priority than the pricing. So to answer your question, it was considered, but the primary focus was on finding a system that would meet staff and the educational needs of teachers and children.
Where does it show that price was considered? Because in the presentation, it didn't mention anything about price considerations.
So I'll address that. We went through 2 rounds of criteria. So the one that I showed you was the second round of criteria. The first round of criteria assigned weightings to Skyward, SunGard, as well as ProLogic and Tyler. And in that first round was where we assigned the cost criteria. So it was evaluated, I believe it was 20 or 25% at that point. We evaluated all the vendors, came out with Skyward and SunGard. At that point, Skyward and SunGard were both in budget.
Let me just, who was on when you had this first document that we don't have, where you had the price in there, who was in that decision-making process?
The exact same, the selection committee, the 30 members.
Okay. And the exact cost was mentioned to them?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it was displayed on a presentation. We talked, I think we had 5 or 6 slides
And
talking about cost.
Mr. Booker, you had some type of matrix?
The actual evaluation criteria that we showed, yes, it does have a pricing element and points next to it.
Okay. Let me ask another question. So you do consulting for a lot of school districts. Has it ever come down to SunGard and Skyward?
I'm sure it's come down to SunGard and Skyward. I can't pick out a specific project where those have been the 2 finalists. We've awarded to both in the past. It just really depends on the functional needs of the districts. And so the needs of Garland may be very different from the needs of a different district that we're working with.
Okay, since we're not approving this for this meeting, would it be possible to get that information in 2 weeks when we look at it? How many times you've recommended Skyward and how many times you've recommended SunGard as a consulting firm? And some references on both?
Mr. Glick, I think it's to point out that Platte Moran didn't recommend them to us. They assisted us in the process. We picked Skyward. They didn't pick Skyward or SunGard. So the fact that to say Platte Moran recommended SunGard is simply not true. They helped us with the process, and as you can tell, the committee overwhelmingly selected Skyward versus SunGard.
Well, I don't disagree with what you're saying. What I would disagree with is there is a certain way you could write RFPs that only certain companies will respond to. And you could make it so that most companies, and in this case, I think the number was 4 or 5 out of a very, very large number who didn't respond. So they may have said, well, the way the RFP is written, I don't need to respond. I can't fulfill their needs. I'm just saying there are ways to do that.
True, and remember some of the requirements. A district the size of Garland ISD with your unique requirements, there's only a select number of vendors that are going to be able to meet your requirements.
Yes. Okay, any other questions? We thank everybody for coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to item 5C. Receive the STAR EOC results for December 2013 administration. Dr. Claycamp.
Yes, sir. I'm not rushing. Mr. Glick, trustees, Dr. Morrison,
Good evening. Let me find the presentation. There it is. Our presentation tonight is going to go over a brief review of the performance of our students on the December 2013 STAR End of Course Retest Administration. You may recall that last spring, the Texas legislature reduced the number of EOCs required of students for high school graduation from 15 down to 5. Those 5 include English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History. U.S. History is typically a course that's taken during a student's junior year, so more than 99% of our students have not even participated in U.S. History at this point in time. So you will see that those results have not been included because we have very, very few numbers of students participating. Although we're going to be reviewing highlights of student performance, I do want to remind you that you do have complete summary reports in your board packets and presentation in preparation for tonight. Let me begin with a bubble chart. One of the first presentations that I did related to STAR results after Dr. Morrison's arrival, he wanted to know about our comparison districts, and he asked a lot about who in Region 10, who are we comparable to. So what I did is I took our 2013 TAPER report. Remember that we talked about the TAPER report at a recent board meeting, and I took that data on that report for the entire state. And I said, which districts are similar to Garland ISD? First characteristic I looked at was district size. They had to be within about 20,000 students plus or minus. The next characteristics I pulled were the percent economically disadvantaged and the percent limited English proficient, or LEP. These districts that you will see are 37 districts that are represented, have an economically disadvantaged percentage within 10 points plus or minus of Garland, and within 5 points on the LEP rate. You'll notice that some districts are highlighted. The highlights aren't showing up very well, but that's okay because I have some arrows to highlight those for you. The districts that you will see named on this chart are the districts that are also within that 20,000 students plus or minus. They include Arlington, El Paso, Mesquite, and Richardson. It should be noted that within these 4 comparable districts in relationship to size and these 2 demographics, that we fall right in the middle. So Arlington and El Paso are slightly larger, whereas Richardson and Mesquite are smaller. Throughout the presentation, you will see Garland's performance as well as the region and the state, and then the performance of these 4 comparison school districts. I do want to point out that I did abbreviate the horizontal and vertical axis so that you could really discriminate between those very small dots. If I put them on a 100-point scale, they'd be all lumped into one. So we're going to start with Algebra 1. This graph is displaying the percentages of students that earned that Level 2 satisfactory performance on the December end of course administration. All of the graphs that you'll see are organized in the same way. You've got the district graph represented in the maroon color, the region in green, the state in blue, and then the 4 comparable districts in the gray bars. They are organized alphabetically. I do also want to point out that the number of students that participated in the retesting opportunity are included on that horizontal axis. So, for example, you can see that Garland had 735 students participate, of which 25% of those students met that Level 2 Phase in 1 standard, compared with Richardson, who had 230 students participating. Biology performance in Garland ISD continues to be a strength for the district, with the fewest number of students participating in these retest opportunities when compared to other content areas in the district. It's important to note that I kind of refer to this as a retesting opportunity. Unlike the tax test where students had a first administration and then retest, the EOC is set up so that whenever a student finishes a course or is about to finish the course is when they participate in the end of course. For the majority of students, they take the first semester in the fall, the second semester in the spring, and then they will retest on the EOC that spring. We do have a very small handful that for a variety of reasons might not start the first semester until the spring and could finish either the next fall or the summer, and so they would have their initial administration that summer or that fall, but for most students, this is a retesting opportunity. The December 2013, I'm not sure why that's popping up, administration was the last opportunity for students to take a separated English 1 or English 2 reading and writing assessment. Part of what the Texas legislature did last spring was put together when they narrowed it down to 5 assessments, was combine the reading and writing portions. Beginning with this spring semester, we will see the English exams change from 2 4-hour exams to 1 combined reading and writing 5-hour exam. And actually, students will be participating in those next week. As the ELC with the largest percentage of retesting students, the isolated English 1 writing assessment continues to be a difficult assessment statewide. It should be noted that for some of these students, there's about 500 students that participated in Garland ISD out of the 1654. About 500 of these students are students that are in the class of 2015, current juniors, that have participated up to 6 times in this assessment. We will later in the presentation talk about the Commissioner's transition plan, going from separate reading and writing exams to a combined, and so we'll take a look at the impact of that transition. Another interesting note about the English 1 and English 2 EOCs is the passing standards. We're currently under Phase in 1, Level 2 passing standards. As we did under tax, phase-in standards are being phased in over time. In mathematics, science, and social studies, the phase-in standards are being phased in at 1 standard deviation below the recommended final passing standard. However, because the reading and writing in English 1 and 2 were 2 separate tests, these tests are actually being phased in at a more difficult standard. It's actually 1 standard deviation below. So it's a much broader, it's half. Math, science, and social studies are 1 standard deviation below. Reading and writing are half a standard deviation below. Because it's a combined assessment, you add those 2 halves, and that's how they figured you got the whole. So it's a much more difficult standard to meet. While GISD continues to see large numbers of students participating in the English 2 writing retest, we have just over 1,000 students that participated in December. It is encouraging to know that larger percentages of our students are meeting with success on the English 2 writing when compared to the English 1 writing. Now let's talk about that transition plan, moving from separate reading and writing assessments in both English 1 and English 2. Should become effective today, Commissioner's proposed rules. What the Commissioner has said is that if a student passes at least one of the assessments, either reading or writing, they meet a minimum score on the other assessment. That minimum score is usually within 3 to 4 raw score points. And the combined score of those 2 assessments is greater than or equal to 3750, then the student will get credit for meeting with success on that assessment and not have to retest. So what does this mean? Well, when we look at our English 1 students in the district, we have students in the graduating class of 2015 and 2016, so our current sophomores and juniors. Just almost 8,000 of those students have participated in an English 1 assessment. 73% of those met the standards outright. They passed writing, they passed reading. However, an additional 6% of those students met the requirements under this transition plan. So they met the standard on one of the assessments, met the minimum on the other, and met the combined total. On the English 2, you can see that we've got our current juniors, almost 4,000 students. 68% currently have met the separate reading and writing performance standards, and that's after the 3 administrations. However, another 14% of our students met the transition plan requirements for English 2. So what does all of this mean? Well, you've received in your board packet for tonight's presentation a press release from TEA dated back in January. And TEA said 76% of students statewide are on track to meet their STAR end of course assessments. I thought, well, that's great. Let's see what it looks like for Garland. This is looking at the class of 2015, so our current juniors. 86% of that class has passed or met with their success on the English 1 assessment, combined reading and writing. 82% have met their English 2. 89% have met their Algebra 1 requirement, and 96% of our current juniors have met their biology requirement. So what does that mean? Well, students are currently required to have 5 end-of-course assessments in order to graduate. A majority of that would be 3. So I took a look at students that had participated in at least 3 end of course, and then had they passed those. 77% of our current junior class has met a majority of the requirements required for graduation under the STAR end of course. So that was definitely encouraging news. At this point, I'm going to ask Ms. Kara King. I was told to introduce her as the other Kara King, in case you heard that gasp earlier tonight. And she's going to talk about some of the intervention efforts that are currently underway to support our students so that we can get them on track to graduate next spring.
Thank you, Dr. Claycamp. Good evening, Mr. Glick, Board of Trustees, Dr. Morrison. I appreciate this opportunity to come before you and briefly outline efforts to meet the needs of our students who have not yet been successful on end-of-course testing. Parents, of course, have been notified about the results of the December retest, and students have been given, opportunities to understand the measures we have available for support of these students. Students needing to retest have been placed in intervention classes instead of a semester elective. These classes are set up to target the students' skill deficiencies in reading, writing, mathematics, vocabulary development. Remediation is provided through teacher-led small group instruction and practice driven by student data. In January, after we received the December EOC retest data, a computer-based program called Achieve 3000, and you have detailed information in your board book about the program, was implemented in the intervention classes as a component of the small group rotation in order to provide more individualized support for each student. Achieve 3000 focuses on the improvement of reading and writing skills, academic vocabulary across the content areas including science and social studies, and critical thinking skills. Each high school also offers after-school and Saturday school tutorials. Tutorial groups are established using the previous EOC data for each student so that the students receive remediation over the content objectives that they need to be successful. So that's a brief outline of what we're doing on campuses. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Mr. Axe?
I have a question for Dr. Claycamp. Would you just briefly go back over how a student winds up doing the second testing?
The second testing.
The retest.
The retesting. Well, if they haven't, let's say, okay, so I've got a student that tested last spring. First administration was my daughter, and she took English 2. Now, fortunately, she met that phase in 1, level 2 passing standard. Right. But had she not met with success on that assessment, then she would be required to retest and meet with success as part of her graduation
Okay, like we used to do with tax.
Yes, just like tax.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Griffin?
Yes, I think mine is for the other. King, yes. How is the intervention working in terms of attendance? We've identified the students, we've contacted the parents. Mm-hmm. You mentioned a number of programs, but how has been the response to that?
Well, being able to have time during the school day that we can devote to intervention, that's a key component. And then, of course, to have the after-school and Saturday school programs that are offered there, then we pick up the majority of the students that can't participate during the day.
So the Saturday school is being effective?
It ebbs and flows.
Okay.
The closer we get toward the retest, the numbers grow and grow, okay, just like we did with tax. And, you know, we have more concern at that point from parents and students. But I think that, especially with the addition of the Achieve 3000 that we're using during the school day, I think that component, and we're looking at some other things that we can do to be more laser focused regarding student needs in mathematics to support that. So I think that our intervention program, we're seeing big gains and a lot of more student-focused interest. You know, a lot of times kids, like I just said, they kind of think they need to be concerned at the last minute, but we're seeing more concern earlier.
Mm-hmm. Is that it? Just a quick question. The combined reading, writing, that's going to be one test?
Yes.
If you did not pass the first one when they were separate, is a new test going to be a combined test?
Yes.
And that's the ones that you said start next week?
Yes.
So it's different from the ones you took and you didn't pass?
Yeah. I mean, it's similar in that it's going to cover the same objectives and the same student expectations. It's just the design of the assessment is different. So I think rather than having, and Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, rather than having 2 writing samples, a student will have 1.
Right, and at the English 1 level,
I'll introduce.
Here, I'm sorry,
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is Miss Lori Elliott. She is our secondary ELA coordinator, and she really is the expert in this area.
Okay. The retesting results that we see right now, the English 1 EOC, the students were writing a fiction piece and an expository piece. In the new combined test, they will only write expository. So they will write 2 essays, but they will be on the same genre, which has been very hard for the students to master 2 genres in 1 year. And then our English 2, we're writing persuasive and expository. So when you see that the scores are a little bit better in English 2, well, this is their second time to write one of those types of writings. So that's what we want to see, better mastery there. Where now in English 2, they will only write persuasive. So we will master our expository, which will help us master our persuasive.
Okay, so this is the first time the new combined is next week.
Yes.
The commissioner's proposed rules that were effective today, is that good or bad? Does that make it easier for or harder for the kids?
That is great for those 4% of English 1 students and the 16% of English 2 students, because that means now under this transition plan, they have met with success on those assessments and will not have to participate in a retest.
Yes, Mr.
I have
Lambert.
one question. Thinking about the writing issue, we talked about in previous meetings about the fact that writing has not been a focus in the classroom over the last I don't know how many years, as opposed to maybe prior years, just because of the nature of testing and the way that learning has occurred. What are we doing differently now in order to spend more time in the classroom writing so that people can be better prepared to address that assessment?
Do you want to answer that, or I have one really good idea? Okay. Let me share my one really good idea. First of all, and that is Miss Lori Elliott that just spoke with you. We actually took her from Richardson ISD, whose results you have seen on here. And so they've met with some success on the English and the writing samples. And so I think that's going to make a huge effort towards improving that. And then I'll let Dr. Wells comment on everything else.
We are very glad to have Lori with us, because we've been also talking about the curriculum and kind of making some revisions as far as the English is concerned, and she has great experience with that. So all of that's being revised so that we can expose the kids to more of the writing, and then also go across the curriculum, because you don't want to just have writing isolated. You need to have it in science. You have labs, you can write, so they need to be practicing these skills across different subject areas. That's how they get better at the writing. And Lori, if you have anything to add, but we're very excited about her being here.
Also, the Achieve 3000 program I talked about, one of the components, most of the selections on there are expository, and they go across all the core areas. And so they bring in expository samples, and then students also, it's not just comprehension and vocabulary, it's also brings in the writing for that in the different core areas, social studies, the sciences, and so forth. So I think that that's also helpful for those students who are struggling.
Also, in our posted curriculum in the past, there were things that we're going to improve upon, as for instance, starting expository writing, 2 years before it's going to be tested. So we'll move that down in the 7th grade, towards the end of that 7th grade year. 7th graders write expository too, but their rubric is just a little bit different than what they're going to be expected to do when they get to high school. And then pushing through our 8th grade ELA classes, which we typically don't write, well, we do now. and the short answer responses and the evidence and the things that Achieve 3000 is going to have across the other curriculums. And I've been fortunate to be a part of such a great department that we are all talking about how can we get this into science. And then I can make that easier on a science teacher, and they know their content, and I know the writing part. And so we're already having all of those conversations as we move forward.
Very good.
So you're taking somewhat of a guesstimate as to what this test will be next week?
Oh, okay. They gave us a blueprint.
Okay.
Not too long ago, but they did give us a blueprint. So we do know how the writing has changed. The reading is the same. It'll be fewer passages depending on what they field test. So a big concern, but we have been working through it this whole year, is this new time crunch that we're down into 5 hours. But we did our benchmark in that same format, and the teachers are aware and the students are aware, and we've been practicing and practicing and practicing on those things.
And so then you communicate your findings and your guidance to all of the high school English teachers? Is that how that works?
And middle school, because we need it to start down there and come up.
And the principals. Lori has been to present to our principals all of these new updates as well, because they need to be aware of the changes.
And I think it's important to note that this is a change. And people are going to say, why is it changing? Why are we doing this writing this way now? And so we're trying to communicate this as many ways as possible to as many different people as possible so everybody understands, because a lot of teachers and even just regular school people don't realize the change between the new testing. And so things are done at the state level, I think, that drive a lot of decisions that districts and changes they make. This would be one of those examples. It's not a bad change, I'm saying. It's just a change.
Mills? We thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Let's go to item 5D, receive salary comparison presentation. Mr. Reed.
Good evening. It is still good evening. Mr. Glick, members of the board, Dr. Morrison. This evening we've had the opportunity to review history past, history present, and I get to cast the seeds into history future. And in my 2-hour presentation on the analytical logarithmic analysis of these salary schedules, we'll get to see how we're going to spend 86% of our budget for 14-15, but I will compress it down to about 10 minutes. So we're going to be looking at 86% of what you, the Board of Trustees, will determine how our budget will go forward. Some presuppositions for this presentation is that we're looking at 13-14 salaries as with our comparison districts. It does not include insurance support that the Garland Independent School District pays at $325 versus the state requirement of $225, and this is based on the Texas Association of School Boards 13-14 salary schedule, our salary survey. You see here our comparison districts for our paraprofessional and auxiliary. We selected these districts as mobile relationships to our current employees as ease of drive and comparison data. When we look at the teacher comparison districts, we enlarge those as our teacher recruitment and teacher movement is greater than on our paraprofessional and auxiliary side. So let's look at paraprofessional staff. We're going to look at a selected few of the comparisons that you received in your board packet. Of that, our summary shows that 17% of the salaries were above average, 56% salaries right at average, and 27% of the salaries below average. Classroom aides are the lowest paid with the exception of computer lab aides. Overall, central staff paraprofessional salaries are average with the exception of the executive chief secretary salary that would be executive director salaries. And that's on the low side at 22%. So let's look at some samples. our comparison districts, those who fall below Garland ISD, Garland ISD, and everyone else for classroom teacher aides. Computer lab aides, our comparison districts, those who fall below Garland ISD, and those above. High school principal secretary, those below, Garland ISD, those above. Special ed aid, general resource, those below, Garland ISD, and those above. Now let's look at our auxiliary staff. Some of our assumptions, 18.75% of the salaries were above average, 18.75% of the salaries were at average, and 62.5% of the salaries were below average. Maintenance foreman is the lowest salary among the comparison districts. Overall, auxiliary staff salaries are below average, with the exception of the transportation dispatcher salary, which is the next to highest salary, and both the salaries of food service and custodial services supervisors are above the average. So let's look at bus driver. Those are the districts below. This is the Garland ISD average, and those are above. Now our bus monitors. Those below, Garland ISD, those above. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or HVAC, is a key component. Everybody wants to talk to one when it's hot or cold, and these are our comparison districts. Those below, Garland ISD, those above. Vehicle mechanic, those below, Garland ISD, those above. Maintenance foreman, Garland ISD, those above. Food service workers, those below, Garland ISD, and those above. Now, teachers, we're dealing with average salaries once again. The beginning, keep in mind we're dealing with salaries, we're not dealing with benefit package. Beginning salary, zero experience for Garland ISD is $48,000. Is average among the comparison districts, we're 10th out of 25. Average salary of all teachers in Garland ISD is $51,911. Is below the average among the comparison districts, 16 out of 25. Teacher salaries with 1 or more years of experience are below average among the comparison districts. 5-year teachers, 16th out of 24. 10-year teacher salaries, 18th out of 24. 15-year teacher salaries, 21st out of 24. And 20-year teacher salaries, 20th out of 24. You also have, we gave you the breakdown of our current teaching staff. 4.9% are beginning teachers, 51.5% are 1 to 10-year teachers, 28.2% 11 to 20-year teachers, and 15.4% over 20 years of experience. Now, if we are looking at teacher base salary, zero experience, these are our comparative districts. Those are the districts that fall below Garland ISD, and those districts that fall above. Teacher average salary. Those below, Garland ISD, and those above. We're providing this information as we enter the budget season and as you begin your budget presentations and analysis beginning in April. We want to plant these seeds of information. as we move forward in making budget recommendations and salary recommendations, so that you have a comparison of where we fall with our competing districts. I want to give special appreciation to members of the HR department, Gradine Brown, Jen Ross, and Thelma Rios Gonzalez, who did the bulk of the data collection. I am just the presenter. They are the backbone of the department, and I truly appreciate their efforts.
Any questions, Mr. X?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I've not only been the classroom teacher, I've been the bus driver. And there's nothing that enlightens your day like walking into the grocery store and having a kid go, "Bus driver," across the store at you. Especially for the price, for the salaries we're paying bus drivers. That's pretty sad.
Mr. Nag?
I know our special ed teacher aides, I know if you are a single male and you have 7 years experience and you're one of our special ed teacher aides, you actually qualify for food stamps because of our salary schedule. And I'd like to see that change in this next budget planning session.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we've obviously done public forum, so we'll go to item 7, discussion items. A, consider revisions to local board policy, CW local, naming the facilities on our first reading. Mr. Graham.
Board members, Dr. Morrison, you have before you some changes to CW local. We have looked at this policy a couple of times, keep getting different directions on where we want to go. I think we've got it clearly defined. We've got a great definition of what facilities are. I think it allows this board, allows you guys some freedom in what you want to do as far as naming different parts of facilities, naming, if you want to name a band hall or an athletic field or a structure related to a building, it gives you that freedom. Also, one of the other things that we discussed was in your guidelines, allowing you as a board some more freedom to consider certain endorsements, certain backgrounds of individuals, but not requiring you to. But, it's something that you may consider, not something that you shall consider. And we did make a change to some of the examples that were originally given on the first page, including, just agricultural training center, student services center, and our tax office, buildings that aren't named after an individual. I'm happy to take any questions.
Anybody have any questions? So we'll see this on our next meeting in
Yes.
April? Good.
Yes,
Thank
you will.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 7B, consider revisions to local board policies with job title changes on the first reading. Ms. Griffin, did you have a comment on this before we?
I would like for us to pull this item. There are name changes in here, but there are also some major changes. And I think we as a board need to look at these changes, the other changes other than the name changes that have been proposed. So trustees, I would like for this to be pulled.
How would you like to see it next time?
The next time I would like to see just the policies with the name changes and then the other policies with the other proposed changes.
Any objection?
This is obviously not, I'm obviously not the administrator responsible for this, but I do know that there was a policy review committee established on this board, and Mr. Washington may be able to further establish what sort of review these policies have had and where they anticipate going with it.
Mr. Glick, Dr. Morrison, other board members. The Policy Review Committee consists of Mr. Aggs, Mr. Lambert, and Mr. Nag, and we talked about all of the changes that were, it was mostly wordsmithing with titles, and there was a part about the residency. I think this is the situation that we're getting to, the residency. And the old policy had the assistant superintendents and the superintendent. And we did discuss this with the Policy Review Committee and caught a faux pas in the policy where assistant superintendents had to get a physical, which we never did work on that. So that was taken out, and as a part of the contract is only part of the superintendent's contract for an annual physical.
I still would like it pulled for the reasons I stated. It's residencies in there, it's something about certificates, it's cars and fleets, and when I know we have, I think, approved a fleet of cars to be purchased, and I'm trying to figure out what's the need to change. I think high-level administrators in the district, you know, it's about being part of the community and part of the area we serve. And the cars, I thought we had approved a fleet of cars and a fleet of buses. So I'm just confused. I don't know if we've made other decisions that make these policy changes basically necessary, but it changes the whole makeup of the district, and I think they're major changes.
Board members, I'll remind you, this is our first read, and I will tell you that there are two separate items on here. The first item is the review of the revisions to local board policies with job title changes on first reading. If you look at those, I think it's pretty clear to see that the only thing that has changed is just the job titles, with some clarification on the residency requirement of the superintendent, which is very clear. The next agenda item, I think, Ms. Griffin, is what you're referring to, where there's a little more detail in changes in fleets and different language that's in here. So I think it may be appropriate for this board and this body to consider the two separately.
I thought I saw some other stuff in that first deal too.
There's not.
Let me check my notes here that I highlighted here.
I found some stuff in the first one also that I thought we need to discuss.
I'd be welcome to have 3 other board members have a subcommittee, and they could meet on the policies and bring it back to us.
Again, this is first reading too, so I'm not sure I understand, from my point of information, exactly what we're pulling to be reviewed again. Are we going to have another first reading, or what's being suggested here?
So you all feel that there should be no residency requirement in the district, and you feel that the cars, what was the rationale? Do you know why you did the deals on the fleet of cars? Did that come to you as a recommendation, or I don't understand. I mean, I just need some rationale.
Which
or the cars?
Which one are you talking about?
Which one are you talking about? Which policy?
Give me a minute.
Well, as you're looking at that, let's talk about the residency for a second. The way the policy was written, it was assistant superintendent and superintendent were required to live in the district, but that was not followed. Only the superintendent was required to live in the district. We had assistant superintendents that did not live in the district, and it was not followed.
But do you know whether or not they were given special permission? Because the previous policy said that there could be special consideration given. So
that I don't know. That's what.
Yeah, but I'm just saying you can't say it wasn't necessarily followed. You can come in and say you found people not living in the district, but we didn't change the policy. But you don't know if special consideration was also given, because that's what the policy allowed for.
Does the new policy allow that also?
No, it took that part out.
Well, that's because only the superintendent by the superintendent's contract is required. So if we go back to the old policy and say everybody, assistant superintendent, deputy superintendent, and above, up to the superintendent, keep the same language, and then I guess the superintendent can waive which is probably what happened before, the superintendent waived the residency requirement.
With board approval.
It would have to be with board approval.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is you don't have to change it. You can leave it the way it is that would be something that you could instruct us, where you would go back to your policy committee, which are your 3 board members that you've appointed to that. You share those discussions with them. They go back and have a discussion and bring it back to you, and they either say yes, no, we agree, we don't agree, those kinds of things. There's no advantage to pulling this tonight. It's on first reading. There's nothing going to be approved tonight. We can still have the.
So are you saying we should send this back to the subcommittee?
No. What I'm saying is, you're sitting there. We're sitting here on first reading, okay? And if you, as a board, have that discussion, then we can sit there and have discussion on whether or not you agree or disagree. And if on the second reading the board wants to change that and put that language back in there, assistant superintendent, deputy superintendent, whatever. With board approval, you have the right to do that on the second reading. That does not change, and that gives you 2 weeks, if this is when we bring it back, or a month from now. But if you sit there and say you don't want to even consider it on first reading, then it does go back to the committee, and the committee is going to look at it and go, well, we didn't have a problem with it the first time. Send it back to them.
Okay, Mr. Axe.
I'm a little confused. Are we talking about all the policies on this, or just one policy?
It's all these that's listed in the book.
Okay.
Okay, well.
Let me just say, I thought on first reading, if there's something that board members were concerned about, that's what we've done before, is you bring up what that discussion or what that concern is on first reading. And don't wait till the second reading to make the changes.
Well, but
the point is that there may not be a change. There's 2 board members here right now that are expressing maybe they have reservations about that. There's 3 that were on this committee that are here that brought it forward, and 2 are no longer here because they left. It may be a 5-2 vote, and they might just stay the way it is. But so at some point, as a board, you're going to have to discuss with the entire board here and have that discussion. That could be, you could table it, it could be back at the first reading, you could not table it, it could be at the second reading, and you can make the adjustments at that time with the entire board here. And I think that would be highly appropriate to have that discussion out in the open forum.
But the rationale that you said is that we don't, I'm trying to understand, we don't need this policy because it wasn't followed? Is that right? But we had a policy.
I was not here and I wasn't on the board. Does the board ever remember waiving that?
Never, not in my years.
So I asked the question, the only question I ever asked was, did the board ever vote? And the recollection of staff is the answer to that was no. So therefore, that was my conclusion, that it was not followed.
But, okay, if you have a policy,
But the only person.
if it's not followed, that doesn't mean you say, well, that policy doesn't exist.
We didn't say it didn't exist. The policy does exist. All right.
And then the other question is, should it exist?
That's the question that you have right now.
Right.
Should it exist? And do it? So if you can get 4 board members to agree with the 2 that are right now saying it should exist, then at the second reading, add it to it and let everybody vote on it. If you cannot get 4, then it stays as is, because right now you have 3 that recommended it to you tonight for first reading, and they're all 3 here. The other 2 are not here. So you get to have this discussion. You can table it. We can have the discussion on the first reading, or we can have the discussion on the second reading. It's not going to matter. We can still have the discussion.
I guess when I saw this, and I said, so we as a district, Linda, we as a district are saying to the outsiders, we do not want to require your cabinet to live in our district? We don't think that's important enough?
I want to be very clear. The only change that's on here is that assistant superintendents are no longer be required to live in the district. And in fact, your old policy did not establish a waiver provision. And you can see it as
I didn't think
drafted.
it did, but I was not going to.
There's no waiver provision in your old policy.
Right, I understand that.
The only change that's in here is that your assistant superintendents, not your executive directors, not anyone else, are no longer required to live in the district. They're encouraged to live in the district. As far as I know, you only have 1 assistant superintendent by official title right now.
Well, it would seem to me, if you have a title of superintendent and you have a title of assistant superintendent, that anybody at that level or in between that level with new titles would be subject to this rule. That's how I would look at it.
And what I'm saying, when I got here, there were 2 assistant superintendents. One lived in the district and one did not, and there
Right.
was no waiver given, and there was never a discussion by the board for that. Therefore, it was my conclusion that the policy was not followed.
And making it then null and void?
Not making it null and void, I think the point, there's 2 separate issues here. One, it wasn't followed. 2, do you want it in there or not? That's a whole different discussion. It doesn't really matter whether it was followed or not. We know it was not.
Oh,
And
I
so-
don't, I do not know it was not. You're telling me it was not. I believe you. I
Did-
don't know where people live, honestly and truly.
Well, okay, and so you don't know where people live honestly and truly, and I
Right.
believe that, and that has had no impact on their job performance or the way that they deal their job on a daily basis. I think
No, I
that-
think it's a signal we're sending that's a little different. A lot of jurisdictions require high-level officials to live in that jurisdiction. So we're deciding that's not important anymore. I just want to make sure.
Could I
Board member-
ask a point of information here?
Yes, sure.
All right. Okay, this discussion is all great. You've got 3 board members that have recommended a policy, okay? If this is a first reading, if there is something that you recommend as a change, tell us what that is, and we can take it up on second reading. But I don't,
Well, that's
I
what I'm
don't
trying
see
to get
why
to.
we're.
I'm trying to get to
Well,
that.
what is it that's being recommended here? I don't understand what the recommended change is.
Well, the recommendation from my point of view would be that we go from assistant superintendent up to superintendent and keep that policy intact. Now, the fact that you keep saying that 3 people have recommended, well, the reason we discuss things is they may say, well, I never thought of that before. And they may say, you know what, you make a good point, Mr. Glick, or maybe you're totally wrong. But at least they listen to it, and that's why we discuss it. So the
I'm
fact
good-
that
I'm
3
good
people
with the
come here with that
discussion.
opinion, doesn't mean they might not change their mind.
I didn't say that they would.
Okay.
The point is, this is the first reading, and this is why you have the discussion, and then you get to the second reading, and if you want to make a change on the second reading. That's the appropriate procedural format. And so we've heard that we have 2 board members that have a reservation about
You
this.
keep saying 2 board members.
I've only heard 2 tonight
Okay.
say anything
Okay.
against it. So I'm going, there could be more because there 2 are not here. That's the other reason I said we have 2 that aren't even here. They may feel the same way you do. I don't know. But
But you're trying to make this into a 3-2 right now.
No,
I don't
what
know
I'm-
if it's 3-2 right now. I don't know. We're not voting on it now, so I don't know.
Can I ask a question? How, either of the Policy Review Committee, and I appreciate your work. How did you all get this? Did you all review all of the original deals, or did a suggested markup come to you all, or you went through each of these policies and made the changes yourselves?
We made the changes and presented it to them with the rationale, especially
We
with
who? You mean,
my secretary and I. As far as wordsmithing that was presented to them.
okay, and the additions and the deletion? So that
Yes.
came already?
Just like it is.
Yes.
Just
That-
like.
And see, that's
Yes.
a different understanding. That's a major different understanding from
Okay.
my perspective.
And-
So after I was listening to you all, I was like, I'm missing something here. So you all got this already marked up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go over some other options and changes, okay? Potential changes, is that okay? Yes, sir, Mr. Axe. No. Okay, so on page 94 on the meetings, it says comprehensive minutes of district-level committee meetings shall be kept of all meetings and copies forwarded to the board. I've never gotten one copy of a district-level committee in 7 years. So should we strike that, or how do we get those minutes?
Mr. Glick, we have those meetings and we have the minutes. I wasn't aware of this, but we can forward, we have them all the way from the beginning of the year, this year. I don't know about the years past. but we do have those
No,
minutes.
and I understand you may, but, you know, the policy says one thing, and you're relatively new here, 7 years, never seen one set of meetings.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know.
I was able to get from your assistant today, the members of that committee, which I've asked for forever. I finally got them today. Thank you for that. I never know who was on that committee.
Okay, I just wanted to
So I'm
let you know
saying we have stuff in here that, here's another thing. Interesting. Business representatives are on this committee. Business member representatives need not reside in nor operate businesses in the district. Really? You don't want them to either have a business in the district or reside? Should it be and or either or? So they could have a business in Dallas and live in Plano? I think that's what this says. Well, anybody have any comments on that? Is that what we want? Business people who have a business in one city, live in another, and they're on our committee in our district? I don't know. I have several changes all throughout this. Calendar, such calendar shall be submitted to the Finance and Audit Committee prior to presentation to the board for adoption. If it's the Finance and Audit Committee, that hasn't existed for 4 years, 5 years, 4 years at least. So what I'm saying is, when you went through this document, did you go through it for some of these items, or did you want to keep these items? Just a question.
I wasn't present in the review.
Okay. Do you want me to suggest those changes or leave it alone?
I think it's already been said, if you want to recommend some changes on second reading, then we'll consider them.
Okay, so what is the purpose then of the first reading?
To have this discussion.
To have the discussion we just had?
Okay, and just leave it for people to think about till the next time?
Well,
What?
we need to see changes, if you
Oh,
have
you want me
any.
to submit changes? Is that what you're saying?
Suggested changes,
Suggest them how?
just like you just did.
Okay.
You feel like
In
you,
an open session?
no, back to the committee and let them look at it and they'll bring it back
Okay,
on.
but they don't have any scheduled meetings. That's what I'm saying. That's the problem. I asked Mr. Washington, you said that there are no scheduled meetings coming up.
Mr. President, what would you like to do?
I'm not sure. That's what I'm trying to find
Well,
out. This is one of first impression. Let's be honest. We have a committee, which I'm glad we have, as Ms. Griffin said, and now we have some options of what we'd like to do, at least what I would like to do, is send some of this back to the subcommittee and say, well, did you think about this? Did you think about that? Should we have a business leader who lives in Plano and has his business in Carrollton, and is on our large district committee? Because that's what we're saying, that's allowed.
All right, well, I suggest that you or anybody else that recommends changes to this, make the recommendation. We'll have another policy committee meeting. We'll consider those, and it'll come back either as a new reading or second reading.
Okay, good. Is that okay, Mr. Washington? That's fine. Okay. Mr. Axe?
I'd like to resign from the committee. No, really, if, why are we meeting and going over these if we're gonna come back and then go through and detail everything that's in here? If that's what you wanna do, why didn't you appoint yourself to the committee?
Well, wait a second. I mean, if we have an item that talks about the Finance and Audit Committee that doesn't exist anymore, should that be in there? It's a fair question.
Probably not.
Okay.
I'm not saying that your suggestions are not valid. Okay?
Okay.
I'm just saying that we're wasting our time. I mean, that's one suggestion. The suggestion about the assistant superintendents having to live in the district. To me, that's a much more meaty problem than
I agree.
agreeing that we shouldn't have to wait for a committee that doesn't meet to meet. But the problem is, when I asked why we didn't have that committee and the facilities committee, I was told that the reason was we wound up having to do everything twice, because the committee would meet and then we'd come back to the board, and then the board would go back and meet on it again. And so I'm not sure what we're gaining by having a policy committee.
Let me say what my thoughts would have been. I understand that Mr. Washington came and said, here are the changes that I have looked at in this local policy that you need to consider. What I would have asked you to do would be to have gone through the whole document and say, well, wait a minute, do we have this subcommittee? Should a business member, I mean, I think that's a pretty important question. I really do. That it bothers me that we're going to allow somebody who, I'll take any two cities other than Garland, Routt, and Saxe. But what I will do is I will go through what I think, and I will send them to Mr. Washington and allow him to get in touch with the subcommittee members and go from there. Is that fair enough? Okay. Ms. Griffin, if you want to add anything, we'll, all
I
right.
have expressed my concerns of the 3 areas.
Okay, so.
Excuse me, Mr. Glick.
Yes.
I never got which board policy deals with cars?
I don't know.
I remember that there was a board policy in there, but I haven't been able to find it to look at it to see what we talked about on it.
I'll look, Mr. Axe. Honestly, I stopped looking, so I'll find it.
Okay, so let's then go to item 7C, consider revisions to local board policies, including TASB update, 98 and first reading. Mr. Washington. And this one was reviewed by the committee too? Okay.
If you look at all the titles, when we revamped our administrative council with associate and deputies, and this was just cleaning up the titles.
Okay.
This group of policies were changed based upon TASB's update because of changes in legislation from the last session. We're already getting behind in terms of dealing with these policies. Right. And the changes have to do with required legislative updates due to legal updates. And so, I mean, there shouldn't be any real concern with regard to approval of these.
No. I don't have any other comments? Okay. Let's go to item 7D, exchange of information. Anybody have anything they'd like to speak about?
I do.
Yes, sir.
I'm going with a number of trustees tomorrow to the House Education Committee's public hearing on Phase 1 House Bill 5 implementation. Obviously, it's important for all of us, all districts, to get it right in terms of this implementation, to show the legislature that there is a reason why we need to have local control. And so we're going to show our support for that, and also to start talking about tweaks that are needed with regard to the legislation for the next session. So whenever we get an opportunity, I'll report back to you guys about what I observed.
So you're going with other people from other districts?
Yes.
Okay. Didn't we have a document locally for us that addressed what we needed, what we were considering in House Bill 5? I just don't know if that would be something. Are you taking that?
I have that.
Okay,
yes.
thanks.
Thank you.
And I think, as Mr. Lambert indicated last time when he was, I guess in Corpus Christi, that document was very helpful to some other districts who indicated that we're more advanced in moving along with HB5 and all the prescriptions than almost any other district in the state. So,
which is also part of the concern is to make sure that everybody is on task with the implementation. So,
okay, any other comments? Okay, let's go to item E, review our calendar. Tomorrow night is the Rowlett Chamber of Commerce Annual Banquet. On Thursday is Garland Economic Development Steering Committee. Also on Thursday is Baylor Garland's 50th anniversary. On Friday and Saturday is the GISD Livestock and Plant Show and Kate exhibit. The Kate exhibit runs Friday and Saturday all day. The livestock is Friday night and Saturday all day. One thing we have talked about, and the superintendent sent out an email, is that we're planning to have a budget workshop in April. He asked to look at dates. Is everybody, at least the 5 of us who were here this evening, available on the 29th? That would be the 5th Tuesday of the month? No?
I'm out of town that week.
What?
It was on your Tuesday update last week.
Yeah.
As one of the action item, one of the discussion items.
Okay, so Mr. Nag, no.
I'm out of town that week.
No good on the 29th.
29th of March?
No, of April, April.
Just looking at Tuesdays. Before Tuesdays,
I can do it on the 15th if we start early.
15th of April?
Yes. Is that good for everybody? We have to start, no good for that, okay?
We have some award ceremonies.
Okay, yeah. That leaves, if we're gonna do it on a Tuesday, the 1st, would that be too early for you? To have it next? Too early? Too fast? Okay.
What's with the 30th?
30th of what?
Steve, are you,
30th of what? 30th of what?
April.
That's a Wednesday.
I'm out of town that week at a wedding.
Oh, the whole week.
Oh, okay.
Unbelievably, yes.
Okay.
It's in Florida. If you'd like to go, you can visit your relatives.
Okay, can I get your
Look at carpool.
How about a Thursday we have a meeting on the 27th, but the 24th? Is that, of April 24th, Thursday?
I will probably not be back in town at that time. I'm going to Minnesota.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, some travel.
Dr. Barajas, how about the week of the 8th? Would you be ready for that week? Too fast?
That's too fast. That's too fast.
Yes. Too fast? Okay. What I'll have Jan do is there any dates that might work for everybody in April? Probably not at this time. Yes, when?
Sure.
What?
Go to.
When?
How about
Wednesday.
the 14th?
Monday, the 14th. I can't do that.
Me neither.
Okay, let's go into May then.
Let's do Saturday, April 12th.
How about May 6th? That's a Tuesday. May 6th, Saturday. Tuesday, May 6th. Good. I got 2 yeses.
I'm okay on the
3,
4.
4, okay. Jan, would you send out to Cindy and Scott and ask them if they're available on Tuesday, May 6th? Jan, and Dr. Barajas, that would certainly be good for you? Okay. Okay. So we kind of have that as a possibility. Also, in early April, on April 3rd, strategic planning design team meets again. That's Mr. Nag, myself, and Ms. Griffin.
Aren't we at NSBA that day?
No, it doesn't begin till,
At our hotel
NSBA
reservations.
really begins on Saturday morning. There's a kind of a pre on Friday. This is Thursday.
Well, okay, they have our hotel reservations Thursday through Sunday.
Thursday evening, probably.
That's usually when you go to bed in a hotel. We're almost there, aren't we?
Well, we do have.
I'll check and see because I just went by what they sent me. That's what they sent me. If it doesn't start till Saturday, I'm happy.
There's pre-stuff on Friday, but
Well,
none of the
need
speakers
any-
are there.
Okay. Well, then we need to all probably go change our hotel reservations.
Saturday through Monday,
Yes.
unless you're going to walk
Okay, so that's the NSBA conference in New Orleans. Let's see, what else? We have the Goldilocks Awards coming up in the middle of the month. And I think that's pretty much, I'm sorry? Oh, yes, Goddess Awards and the New Image. Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you,
All right.
Jesus.
Is there any future agenda items under 7F? Okay. We'll go to our consent agenda, which is item 8, and consent agenda is A, B, C, D, and E. The chair, if anybody want to pull any items?
I recommend approval of the consent agenda items as printed in our board book.
We have a second and a motion. Is there any discussion? There being none, please show your affirmation, raising your hand. The consent agenda passes 5-0. We'll go to item 9, action items. These are non-consent. 9A, consider approval of the summer reading program. Dr. Morrison, you're listed on that. Oh.
I'm really tempted to ask you to take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. I'm Dr. Pat Mullins. I'm the Family Engagement Facilitator, Title I Parent Educator, and Volunteer Coordinator for this wonderful school district. Brian Williams. Summer. Sorry, we're a little tired. There it is. Okay. I'm here today to introduce to you the proposal for the Family Engagement Summer Reading Together. We know that when parents and others encourage our kids to read and to develop a love of learning, that they will succeed, and they will discover that books are full of adventure and information and can provide a lifetime of learning and assist the students in achieving. What would happen if our students did not spend time during the summer to improve their academics? And so I would like you to, I invite you to look at this video. My lovely assistant. It's a 2-minute video, so it won't take very much time. Thank you. There's no sound. It does? You have to start it over.
Yeah, I saw it at the PTO meeting, yes. Maybe we should just give them the money.
Okay, I'm going to give you a summary. What'd you say?
Just give you the money and skip this.
Okay.
It's only $200,000.
Okay, do that one. Which one? No, this one. Had the sound.
Oh, my God.
Okay, y'all. Okay, I'm going to give you a summary of what you're seeing, because I've seen this thing 20 times. The concern is that children who do not have advantages, the middle kid in June will go a couple of months ahead of time. The child who does not have a lot of encouragement in academics will go behind. Every year, we have wonderful teachers, and they will learn at the same rate. But they will enter kindergarten several months behind. In the summer, again, the child with a lot of enrichment will go ahead. By the same token, the child who does not have a lot of encouragement will fall behind. This will continue for first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade. So what I'd like you to see is the gap between our two students who attend Garland schools. They receive the same education. First grade is the same. Our kid is falling further behind. By the fifth grade, we can cut this off. By the fifth grade, research will show that the kids who have enriched are very far in front. The kids who have not been enriched could be as much as 2 and 3 years behind. Are we going to let this happen in Garland ISD? Are we going to let our children who are not have the ability to have enrichment and academics, are we going to allow that to happen in Garland ISD? Now, what I want you to do now is to consider the fact that you are 6 years old and you are going to be receiving a packet from your teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Booker.
As you open this packet, you will see that you have 5 new books. Now, these are representative of what I'm proposing to send home with every child in early childhood, kindergarten, and first grade. These are not going to be exact. This is a representation. If you look in your packet, you have a packet of 5 books. We can have 5 English books, or we can have 4 Spanish books. And Dr. Morrison has requested that one of the 4 Spanish books also be ordered in English so that we can encourage language development. You will have, because this is the summer, you will not have homework. You will have think sheets. So each book will have a think sheet related to the content. The students will have to either write or draw about what they read in the book. There will also be a summer journal. So even though these are early childhood kids, 5 or 6, they are going to be able to either write about the book they learned or they're going to draw a picture. Dr. Morrison also asked that we have a reading log. And so Judy Crin from our communications department has designed a log. I can show you these things. In addition to the academics, we've constructed a family engagement booklet, or sets of things. The first page is the log, which you see, for the months of June, July, and August, English and Spanish. So every time a child reads 20 minutes, he can color in his date, and then at the end of the month, the parent will sign the document. And then at the end of the summer, brings back his log, and he will get a prize from his teacher. There will also be family reading tips, which I didn't have time to do. There's also a 30-page coloring book with colors. This is about 40 developmental assets, which we promote highly in this school district. And the crayons. There will only be 4 crayons because that's all we can afford. The math department, at Dr. Morrison's suggestion, has created card games, and there are 5 different card games. So not only will they be doing reading, but they will do math. Then I've constructed a family game, English and Spanish, with the appropriate die and markers. And this is to get the kids and the families to speak to each other. You can see that all of these things are very attractive. They are not schooly, they are fun, but they are also academic. Some of the comments that we've received, I have 2 part-time family liaisons, and when we do classes in the schools or we do facilitation of whatever, parents are saying to us, we really do want to help our kids, but we don't know how. So we came up with this packet of information that the families can learn together, can enjoy together, can read together, and they can also just be together. I can tell you that a lot of families are not together because of electronics or whatever. There are no electronics in this packet. Some of the comments, too, a grandmother said that she will never purchase another gift for any occasion other than a book after seeing this video. A mother said that without saying a word, she put books around the house for spring break. And the kids thought, what's going on? She didn't say anything. She just said, I just thought it'd be kind of nice. And the kids sat and read. They weren't on the computers and all that other kind of stuff. So I think it's important to understand that for about $25 a kid, there's 9,923 kids eligible to get this packet of information. We can make sure that children in Garland ISD do not fall behind. They do not have a summer slide. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Let me just say, this is incredible. And when you say first grade students, that's a current or going to be a first grade student?
It's current, early childhood, pre-K, and kindergarten and first grade. So first graders will be going into second grade.
Okay.
And I want to compliment the teachers because they have a choice of books. That's another thing, that the teacher is going to select the books. And to a person, they're saying to me, nope, I'm not going to choose pre-K for my pre-K. They're going to get first grade books. Okay. So they are just thrilled with the possibilities.
So this will be implemented if we approve it this summer?
Yes, sir.
Good. Great idea. Just great
Thank you.
idea.
I mean, our whole job is families, and so we're trying to answer the call. And the parents are calling for this. I'm not a teacher, and my kid had trigonometry, and I didn't know what he was doing. But I made him sit there with me.
My only regret is this is coming so late in the evening, even for people who are watching at home live or people who are going to watch the video. They may not get a chance to even hear about this.
I'm sure everyone is still waiting for me, and they're watching.
I really hope so, because it's wonderful. Any other comments? If not, the chair will then entertain a motion on the summer reading program.
Move to approve the summer reading program.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please show your affirmation, raising your hand. That item passes 5-0. Thank you
Oh,
again.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you would like me to take back the
Oh,
free
oh.
packets, no, you can have them if you want to, but
Yeah.
I am very conscious of money.
Oh, shucks. Give it back. Okay. Yeah, he was going to charge us. He was- I wasn't look- God. Okay, so we'll go to item 9B, consider approval of resolution regarding district closures due to inclement weather. Mr. Graham.
Board members, you'll see a resolution that we've drafted, this administration recommends, concerning the inclement weather. We had 3 days of district closure for inclement weather, which is actually good when you consider some of our surrounding districts who had up to 6. The resolution that we're proposing in here has a discussion of the inclement weather days, authorizes us to go ahead and seek a waiver for that. We have two makeup days, and then we have 1 day where we can go seek a waiver for the instruction from the TEA. And then, as far as administrative staff go, this allows us to continue to pay them as we would pay them. Sort of gives us a waiver for the 1 day for our hourly employees and administrative staff.
Any questions? There being none, the chair will entertain a motion on the approval of the resolution regarding district closures due to inclement weather.
Move approval of the resolution concerning district closures due to inclement weather.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? There being none, please show your affirmation, raising your hand. Item passes 5-0. We'll go to item 10, the superintendent's report. Do we have any questions on the tax report or the financial report? Okay. I think we still have some items left in the closed executive session. Superintendent, yes? Okay, so we are going to go back to closed executive session under section 551001, under all three items still? Which ones are personnel matters? Yes? No? Yes, personnel and non-renewal? Okay, so under 551074, personnel matters recommended by administration, and 551074, recommendations for non-renewal and renewal of contracts. It's now 11:41. We return from closed executive session. I certified that the only matters discussed were those permitted under law. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve contractual roles as presented by administration.
Second.
Any discussion? Please show your affirmation, raising your hand. Item passes 5-0. Motion for adjournment.
Move adjourn.
We are adjourned.